What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
4FC, Chapter 76, and Kaido, it's just a little accident. Advertisement. In the gap in the inner bay, the captains of Whitebeard's Twist-Getters squads were all standing together, surrounded by members of the pirate group. At this time, everyone including Whitebeard looked at the warship near Shashing with throbbing eyes. Everyone has heard of the White Lion Xia Xing's suppression of Kaido, but they think it was done with the help of Sengoku Garp and others. They didn't expect this young admiral to be able to achieve this level. The strength of the battle has completely exceeded their imagination. Looking at the people who were all injured on the boat, Whitebeard twisted gate and couldn't help but ask the other side. Letterfield, Lin, you guys, why are you here? What happened? Even though Whitebeard was already injured, Twisting Gate still looked very Haki even in pain. After sweeping his eyes, he stared at Blackbeard Teach, making Teach shiver all over. Then he looked at Kaido with a strong killing intent. Blackbeard Teach killed Sachi and committed the iron crime of killing his companion. And this Kaido kills his brother Kazuki U27TN. Seeing these two people at this time, Whitebeard couldn't help being a little bit murderous, and everyone in the Whitebeard pirate group around him also looked at them with hatred. At this time, Shashing also looked at Whitebeard Twisting Gate, but did not respond. He was simply curious about this man who was unparalleled in Haki in the original timeline. Kaido and Blackbeard Teach both appeared in front of him, they must be very angry. But Shashing also knows that Whitebeard Twist Gate may temporarily give up dealing with Kaido and Teach in order to save Ace first. At the same time, everyone at Marineford looked curiously and solemnly at the side of Whitebeard and Shashing. On the warship, facing Whitebeard's questioning, Bullet's seriously injured face looked even more ugly for a while. The gloom and weakness were almost like dripping ink. Could it be that a group of people were easily beaten and seriously injured to Twet? Twist Gate. The Red Earl Letterfield could have seen the living Whitebeard Twisting Gate and was pleased. Advertisement. But when faced with the problem of Twisting Gate, the loneliness of the odd temperament immediately became cold. He couldn't explain the impel down. Whitebeard was also a little helpless when he twisted gates. One was the old friend Red Earl, and the other was the problem crew on Roger's ship. He couldn't deter them by himself. It's been a long time, Twist Getter. It's just a small accident. On the contrary, Big Mom didn't seem so indifferent when he saw Twet. After all, it was at the same time that the era on the rocks came over. It's just that Whitebeard was already a strong player at the time, and the Big Mom and Kaido at that time were still very immature. On the contrary, Kaido did not show any weakness in the murderous eyes that came from Whitebeard's gaze. Having done it back then, naturally I am not afraid of Whitebeard. Moreover, although I was almost left on the boat by Whitebeard, I am not afraid of being beaten like this by the White Lion now. You say. The cloud in Whitebeard's hand cut and hung on the ground, and a powerful force spread out, making Blackbeard Teach tremble. Daddy. Although the look of Blackbeard Teach's eyes still has the fear of Whitebeard twisting, there is still hidden greed and coveting in the eyes. But at this time, facing Whitebeard's questioning, Blackbeard Teach still tolerated it, and honestly began to tell. I met Beast's pirates and Big Mom pirates who were about to enter Impel Down on the sea, so I entered together to release the prisoners on the 6th floor, and the White Lion Admiral kept Impel Down, so the result is just as you can see. The White Lion Admiral alone used Conqueror's Haki to suppress everyone and destroyed part of the prison layer of Impel Down, and then he was taken too. Come here. The White Lion Admiral is really a genius. Conqueror's Haki of this level is probably unparalleled in the world. Blackbeard Teach didn't say what he was doing to Impel Down before, but just followed all the way in, and then gave it a rough idea, not forgetting to flatter it. Everyone listened quietly, and couldn't help but looked at Shashing who was still on the bow. Everyone is not stupid. You can see that the four emperors Kaido, Big Mom, and even the eyes of the White Lion with Bullet and others on the warship are full of terror and dread. Whitebeard twisted gate and even found that Laozi, who has always been ignorant of Laozi, had fear and deep fear in Xia Xing's eyes. Advertisement. This is totally hard to imagine. In the past, even Roger, Golden Lion, who was not imaginative, would have such a look at Letterfield, and even this Shashing mastered the tricks that rocks could only use back then, armed conquerors. It is also hard to imagine Whitebeard twisting gate at this time. What has a young man under 20 years old experienced to have such a powerful and terrifying conqueror's Haki strength? That's how it is, old. Blackbeard Teach's face even had a trace of embarrassment. It was really uncomfortable to face Whitebeard in this state. Only you are not worthy of being my son, Teach no, Blackbeard. He called out Father 627 twice, but Whitebeard was a little angry and couldn't help but complain loudly. At this time, Blackbeard Teach didn't dare to say anything. After all, the White Lion was still here, and he was just a prisoner. What is his background? Is it that D? However, the silence of Blackbeard Teach's words and the silence of Kaido, Big Mom, Red Earl and others on the warship made some people who didn't believe it had to believe it. Shashing, the White Lion, actually achieved such a record. He was awakened from the birth of his mother, Conqueror's Haki. Stunned, the pirates of the Whitebeard pirate group couldn't help but said in shock. The marine soldiers did the same, swallowing their throats with a shocked expression. Kizaru and Aokiji were also shocked, with extreme surprise on their faces. You have to know that they can't reach 5 or 5 in a single fight with the 4 emperor. After all, that is Kun 4 emperors on the sea. Akainu looked at Shashing more admiringly while shocked and shocked. It's a pity that Xia Xing's resentment towards celestial dragons deepens because celestial dragons will leave marine. Even the look in Whitebeard's twisting eyes towards Shashing at this time was full of dread in addition to an unbelievable look. This white lion Shashing has surpassed rocks simply from Conqueror's Haki, right? Chapter 77. One look suppresses the ant. Advertisement. At this time, I didn't care about the others, until the warship was completely docked on the inner bay, and looked at the ghost spider, the voice mouse and the group of Vice Admiral. On the side of the voice mouse Vice Admiral and others, including Kirby, couldn't help but feel a little astonished. White Lion, what did Admiral look at them? You all come here. Xia Xing's eyes swept over and waved. White Lion Admiral. Hearing Xia Xing's words, flying squirrels, ghost spiders and the rest of Vice Admiral all walked over honestly. Shashing also jumped off the warship and stood in front of them. They didn't say much about calling themselves Admiral at this time. Go get the seastone mirror and handcuffs, and take all these guys down. Shashing pointed to a group of pirates on the warship behind him. I feel that I will leave after dealing with these guys. I am afraid that the look in Marshal Sengoku's eyes will not let him go easily. Yes. The voice mouse Vice Admiral and others all looked at him for a moment, and then hurriedly responded. He hurriedly asked Kirby to wait for the nearby marine soldiers to fetch the seastone shackles. After all, there are more than 2,000 people, and there are a lot of mirror handcuffs. You all come down too. While taking the mirror and handcuffs, Shashing also let Kaido and Charlotte Linlin of the warship disembark. So, in the eyes of everyone's trembling, the four emperors and their men on the warship, as well as the Red Earl, Bullet and others all walked down one after another. The expressions of Kaido, Big Mom, and Letterfield did not change much, and there was no great resistance to being shackled. If you want to make a move, this kind of thing can only increase the time they earn, so it doesn't matter. Shashing leaned directly with her back on the wall of the harbor, watching Kirby and other marine soldiers bring mirror cuffs. Advertisement. Copy them all. Shashing glanced at this Kirby who had some influence in the original world, and said with a smile. Suddenly, a group of marine soldiers felt flattered and a little excited. The current White Lion Admiral is an invincible powerhouse who has truly proven himself, and even powerful pirates like Whitebeard Newgate dare not easily provoke White Lion Admiral. At the same time, a group of Vice Admiral and Kirby Marine fighters also regretted it. The White Lion Admiral has already proposed to leave Marine and no longer serve as the Marine Admiral. Otherwise, I am afraid that the strength of the White Lion Admiral will become the real Marine's highest combat power. With such complicated thoughts, Yumo and other Vice Admiral, as well as Kebi, etc., walked over to four emperors and the others with mirror cuffs. Although each of the Vice Admiral is good at strength, they can't help but feel a little palpitating now that they are close to such a lineup. The Marine fighters such as Kirby and Belumal were even more unbearable. Even their legs were trembling and soft, and some did not dare to step forward. In the end they mustered up their courage, bit their scalp, and sweated. Among them, there are Marines around BIGMOM stepping forward, specially avoiding the shackles on BIGMOM. In the end, only Kirby had no choice, which made Kirby tremble even more. BIGMOM is close to 9 meters tall and has that huge fat figure, bloodshot eyes exposed, thick lipstick, his face is slightly overconsumed and pale, and the corners of his mouth have a slight smile that makes Kirby's eyes frightened. NS. This is horrible. Four emperors BIGMOM, I really can't imagine what kind of god admiral the White Lion is like, even these monsters are not opponents. Kirby was trembling all over, thinking of the White Lion Shashing next to him, gritted his teeth and held the shackles towards BIGMOM. On the contrary, BIGMOM showed an uncomfortable smile, and it was only a little Marine sow who came to shackle her. This caused BIGMOM's unhappiness to resist. With a stare in his eyes, Kirby was frightened and took 2 steps backwards in a cold sweat. However, for a moment, Xia Xing, who was leaning against the wall lazily holding her arm, stared in her eyes. The invisible and invincible Conqueror's Haki instantly suppressed BIGMOM. With a bang, BIGMOM's feet were instantly crushed and shattered into a big pit. BIGMOM even spit out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the pink clothes on his chest red. At this moment, BIGMOM clearly felt the gap with Xia Xing, and its own Conqueror's Haki disappeared in the body when Xia Xing's majesty arrived, and was completely suppressed. Kirby, who had just stood in front of BIGMOM, had eyes shocked, and the whole person was stupid. Advertisement. It is impossible to describe the shock in Kirby's heart at this time. Four emperors BIGMOM is such a terrifying person in front of him by the White Lion Admiral, suppressing his body without even moving, spit out blood. At this time, Vice Admiral of Huoshaoshan took advantage of BIGMOM's vomiting blood pressure very quickly not far away, and took BIGMOM's hands and feet while holding a mirror. Courageous courage, Cao Chong. When Huoshaoshan shocked Xia Xing's invincible Haki, he did not forget to praise Kirby. He dared to step forward in front of the four emperors, which is not something ordinary people can do. Then he looked at lazily and leaned on with reverence. Xia Xing on the wall. Mom. Behind. In front of Katakuri and others, Marine also stepped forward to put on the mirror and handcuffs, but when he saw that BIGMOM was suppressed, he was shocked and moved forward. Xia Xing glanced faintly, and Conqueror's Haki also enveloped the past. Woolen cloth. Katakuri and Cracker, the 4 stars, Dafu and others were suppressed and knelt on the ground, and the ground cracked. He doesn't even have the ability to mobilize Haki and power, so he can be slaughtered in Conqueror's Haki of Shashing. The officers of each BIGMOM pirate group who wanted to move were all hit hard in an instant. White Lion Admiral Tun, Wang Zhao. Many Marines couldn't help being excited. These pirates still wanted to resist, and the White Lion Admiral was completely suppressed with one look. Then the Marines hurriedly handed them over. At this time, the three Admiral, Sengoku, Garp and others present all condensed, wrinkled their heads and sighed deeply. Many people who saw this scene were also shocked. They saw the White Lion Shashing easily suppressed BIGMOM and her subordinates without even moving. Everything is real, even the demonic existence like BIGMOM has no resistance in front of the White Lion Shashing. Moreover, it's just Conqueror's Haki, the White Lion Admiral is really powerful and outrageous. Beast's Pirates, Kaido, Red Earl, Bullet and others all had their pupils trembling and did not resist at all, because they knew that Shashing would have no effect in resisting, and the opportunity to escape would come soon. Chapter 78. All are obediently torn up. Advertisement. The people present were silent, smirking lightly, their eyes trembling and watching the two large pirate groups, Kaido, BIGMOM, Red Earl, Bullet, and the Big Wine Barrel, and the Crescent Hunter Caitlin and others were honestly smacked. Mirror cuffs. Even the huge battleship San Juan. The wolf was crawling on the warship next to the warship and did not dare to move. The White Lion Shashing now looks like a real overlord exuding terror in front of them. Even before the live broadcast, all the people watching, the supernovae and the dignified Pluton Rayleigh watched this incredible scene. Today's event is probably the most unimaginable miracle event since the end of the Rocks era. Marineford's War plus Impel Down, as well as the White Lion Shashing, if the intention is to kill, the situation of this sea will probably be completely changed. Everyone's eyes are now on Xia Xing's body. This seemingly lazy young man has become the most feared existence on the court today. Among the Shichibukai people, Doflamingo couldn't help but said in a trembling tone. Whitebeard has changed the name of the world's strongest in Getty's world, I'm afraid it has changed hands 630 inches. The White Lion's combat power is obviously stronger than that of Whitebeard Twistgate. Hearing Doflamingo's words, the surrounding violence Kun Shang, Gecko Moria, Pirate Empress Hancock and others could not help but nod solemnly. They also recognized Doflamingo's words, the three major powers on the sea, I am afraid that the White Lion alone is even more terrifying than one of them. Among them, Hawkeye Mahawk has a strong fighting spirit in his eyes. White Lion Shashing, how much is the gap between you and me? Mahawk directly picked up the black sword knight in his hand and challenged the leisurely Shashing. At this time, Shashing stood up after seeing Kaido, Big IMOM and others all handcuffed. He didn't answer Mahawk's words, nor did he pay attention to his fierce fighting spirit. Instead, he solemnly looked at Marshal Sengoku on the execution stage, raised his hands, and pulled off the admiral uniform he was wearing. Mr. Sengoku, the prisoner has already been escorted to you. This will be returned to you. I will not have anything to do with Marine in the future. Take care. If you continue, I will withdraw first. The admiral uniform in Xia Xing's hand floated gently towards Marshal Sengoku under Haki's control. Everyone looked at this scene with shaking eyes. Shashing handed over Admiral's justice coat and officially left Marine. Advertisement. The Crane staff, Garp, MI Admiral, the Major Vice Admirals, and Momoshiki Gion who burst into tears all watched in a complicated manner as the Admiral uniforms representing justice flew to Marshal Sengoku. Sengoku took Admiral's uniform with a trembling hand at this time. He knew that he couldn't stop Shashing at all now, and even choked with more words that he had prepared, and he could only sigh deeply. Reached out and took it. At this moment, Marine has resumed the organization of 3 Admiral. Wait, White Lion, don't you plan to come back to Marine? At this time, watching Shashing saying that he was about to leave after handing over his uniform, Akainu Sakazuki still couldn't hold back. Shouted loudly. Shashing looked back at Marine and nodded. I will let you come back again. Akainu Sakazuki looked very solemn and insisted on saying so. I won't join any forces anymore, be a free man, be a salted fish and lie flat. I can also trouble you to tell those celestial dragons, it's best to walk around when you meet me, otherwise even you Admiral can't keep them. Shashing still shook her head. For these, she has no interest at all. But for celestial dragons, I really can't afford to be tolerant. When I see those faces, I can't help but want to fight first. No one doubts what Shashing said, let alone Admiral, even the existence of 4 emperors can't stop it. Cha. Marines also understand that even if the world government has issued the White Lion's wanted warrant, who can really attack him? Even if you see Shashing in other places, even Vice Admiral will first respectfully salute, and talk about the wanted reward. In this way, everyone in Marineford, as well as people from all over the world through the live broadcast. Shashing no longer had the Marine logo on her body. Wearing her own sky blue t-shirt, she calmly jumped onto the warship when she came. Shashing. Standing behind the bow, Gion's shout came. Shashing turned her head and smiled and waved her hand. Bye-bye. Driven by Conqueror's Haki, the warship began to move, grandiosely starting to follow the path when it came and began to drive out of the inner bay. Kaido, BIGMOM, Red Earl, Bullet, Burndy and Waldo, who were handcuffed, all stared blankly at the departed warship. Advertisement. Many captains of the Whitebeard Pirate group and Twist Gate are also watching. It's really cool, hell la la la. At this moment, Whitebeard twisted Gate to smile. This is also the first time that Admiral has resigned grandiosely. No one in the audience dared to stop Shashing from leaving, let alone anyone dared to stop. The people under the Whitebeard pirate group even let go for fear that they might provoke this ruthless man. And it is at this time. Everyone was watching the warship away, and when they were sighing. Suddenly someone in Marine shouted loudly. Someone is saving Ace. At this time, everyone's attention was drawn back, and they looked at the execution stand in surprise. On the execution stage, Marco fell directly, caught Ace directly, and flew away. Even Sengoku, who just came back to his senses, still holding Xia Xing's justice coat in his hand, didn't know when Marco the Phoenix had arrived at the execution table and took away the fire fist Ace from his side. Even Ace looked like a circle of regret, and he didn't even untie the shackles on his body. Come on, everyone in the Whitebeard pirate group cheered. Marco managed to take Ace away from the execution platform, and quickly flew to Whitebeard's Twist Gate. Twist Gate also smiled at this time, and he was overjoyed. Garp at the execution stage also secretly expressed joy. It was a good thing for Ace to be rescued, and he even laughed. Then he realized that his laughter seemed unsuitable for the matter, and he quickly converged. This scene was something no one had thought of, and it was indeed suppressed by the appearance of the White Lion Shashing. Damn it, Marco. Marshal Sengoku's face was furious, his whole body glowed, and he transformed into a huge Buddha on the execution platform. It was actually emptied by the Whitebeard pirates and rescued the Fist of Fire Ace. Chapter 79. As soon as the White Lion left, all the staff violently. Advertisement. The execution platform creaked in the form of the Sengoku Buddha, and couldn't bear the weight at all. The pirates looked at this martial marine solemnly, and the angry Sengoku was terrifying. Marco grabbed Ace and knew Sengoku, who was using his abilities in a rage, couldn't help flying faster. Boom. When the execution platform collapsed, Sengoku pushed it out with a palm, and the huge shock wave slammed directly towards Marco. The mighty power made the air explode in an instant, and directly caught up with Marco in the bang and hit the rear. Even Marco, who was in the form of a phoenix, could not help but let out a scream. The blue flames of the whole body were strong, but he was directly hit by Marshal Sengoku's angry palm shock wave, and began to fall towards the ice. And Huo Fist Ace took the opportunity to fall down, and was picked up by Foil Beasta and others. Marco slammed to the ground, and as the blue flame on his body rose, he quickly recovered from his injuries. It was not a major problem. He stood up and looked at Whitebeard Twist Getter excitedly. Whitebeard also grumbled, looked at Ace's side, and then looked at Marine with his unique smile. The blood of the devil is absolutely not allowed to be escaped. Akainu Sakazuki didn't expect this kind of change either. Seeing Fire Fist Ace escaped, he shouted fiercely. The whole body turned into lava and flew towards Ace. At this time, Ace was still shackled by Seastone, and Beasta was untying him. Facing Akainu's pursuit, Whitebeard twisted the cloud in Gate's hand, and directly attacked Akainu. Although the current Whitebeard Twist Getter's weakness is not something that Akainu can easily deal with, he was stopped directly and can only concentrate on fighting Twist Getter. In an instant, Whitebeard's hand caused the air to split, and the lava on Akainu's body burst even more. Kazaru Pelusalino and Aokiji Kuzan also rushed forward. When they were just preparing for elementalization, Marco and other team captains also stopped directly. The battle broke out in an instant, and the scene suddenly became chaotic. It was at this time that a large group of people including Kaido, Big Mom, Red Earl, etc. all kept staring at Xia Xing's warship and leaving. Until this time, the warship was completely invisible, and then excitement flashed in his eyes. Opportunity is here. Apart from anything else, Kaido yelled excitedly. Advertisement. Red Earl, Bullet, Big Mom and others reacted in an instant, and immediately went violently. Powerful power erupted from them, and they began to break free of the chains. Kaido's powerful physical strength was the first to break free, and the strong mirror cuff broke in half. Subsequently, Big Mom, Red Earl, Bullet, Burndy Waldo broke free one after another. The Three Plagues Jack, Quinn, Jin and others also began to break free, and the cadres of the Charlotte family like Kata Curry also broke out one after another. As soon as they broke free, they began to help their companions to untie the shackles, trying to seize the way and escape. In the end, Blackbeard Teach, Badgers and others had not been handcuffed in the mirror because they were behind Shashing. At this time, they immediately began to release the power of the dark fruits, laughing and entwining the whole body with black mist. Teach didn't want to escape like the people of the two big pirates, but looked greedily at Whitebeard who was fighting with Akainu Sakazuki. Now is the best time to assassinate Whitebeard to gain fruit power. Not good. Marshal Sengoku was still in the form of a giant golden Buddha, but after an unexpected comeback, Kaido and others broke free too quickly. Forget about the Whitebeard pirates, stop these prisoners first. Immediately, Marshal Sengoku shouted anxiously. Kaido and Big Mom, as well as Bullet, World Destroyer Burndy, and 6 levels of murderous criminals are far more threatening to the world than the Whitebeard pirates. The Whitebeard pirates was just a war caused by saving people. Twisting Gate had no idea about the world. It can be said that it is the most powerful and safest for emperors. And Kaido, Big Mom and even those 6-tier criminals are completely different. They will bring huge disasters to this world. These guys are the real demons. Akainu Sakazuki, Kazaru, and Aokiji. Admiral naturally understands the powerful relationship. If they all run away, Marine will not have the next White Lion to arrest all these bastards. In an instant, Akainu gave up the fight with Whitebeard, and took advantage of the momentum to retreat directly, with the Huoshouchen and other parts. Vice Admiral directly stopped Kaido and the Three Plagues and other beasts pirates. Whitebeard twisted Getter's eyes solemn, and didn't care about it anymore. Instead, he looked at the Firefist Ace, who had already lifted his bondage. Seeking flowers. The captains of the various teams fighting Kizaru and Aokiji also wished that Marine could not take care of himself, and some of them retreated happily. Aokiji Kuzan directly took the Ghost Spider and some Vice Admiral to chase BIGMOM and its pirate group, and the freezing force created a towering thick ice wall to block the way. Advertisement. Kizaru Pelusolino brought a group of pacifists and chose the weakest Blackbeard pirates to stop. Blackbeard Teach, Big Keg, Catherine and others could not help but also had some headaches. Kizaru Admiral, I'm Shichibukai. I'm helping you deal with the Whitebeard pirates. I'm with you. At this time, Blackbeard Teach saw Kizaru leading the pacifist to stop him, and couldn't help but puff up. 0. Then it depends on whether these pacifists recognize you. Kizaru Pelusolino didn't believe Blackbeard Teach at all. This guy is a sinister guy. Seeing that Kaido and others were blocked, the Red Earl and Bullet were about to slip away. Garp rolled up his sleeves, and Haki filled his body in front of them. It's not that easy to leave, Earl Red, Bullet. The huge Sengoku rushed towards Whitebeard and the others. Shichibukai, take action against the Whitebeard pirates. Marshal Sengoku's voice was full of irresistible meaning. At this time, these Shichibukai had better recognize their current position. Even if Kaido, Big Mom and the prisoners run wild, Marshal Sengoku will not rest assured that he will leave the Whitebeard pirates to the side to cultivate and watch quietly. So directly directed Shichibukai and himself to shoot Whitebeard. Hawkeye Mahawk, the Pirate Empress Hancock and others did not refuse, and even the Golden Emperor De Solo also stood up. Hey, Sengoku, we have been fighting with our hands for decades. Facing Marshal Sengoku, who jumped directly from the sky, Whitebeard twisted Getter's left hand muscles to bulge, and hit the great Buddha Sengoku directly with a punch. The air suddenly fell apart. The powerful vibrating force penetrated the past. Sengoku also flashed golden light on his hand, hitting it out with one palm. Chapter 80. Red Hair. Is it over when I first came? Advertisement. Two old opponents who have not played against each other for many years are fighting together at this time. Conquerors, Armament Haki's confrontation. The battle between Shock Fruit and the giant Buddha of Eudemons. On the edge of the harbor, the battle between Whitebeard and Marshal Sengoku instantly turned into ruins, and the island shook. With the hands-on of Marshal Sengoku, the Three Admiral and the Vice Admiral, the elite soldiers of Marine immediately fought against the pirates with firm eyes. Marineford was caught in a fierce battle in chaos again for an instant. Everyone who watched the live broadcast on Sabayati Archipelago couldn't help shaking their faces. This is already the craziest war in the world. Morgans trembled completely. The 3-4 emperors and the pirates under the group plus the criminals whose existence was erased from Impel down. Marine fought with all the pirates with a 63-0, and even the marshal personally went to the battle. Supernovas and others experienced the Shashing incident and then looked at the chaotic Marineford now, and they were completely speechless. What was originally a battle between the Whitebeard pirates and Marine has completely changed. While at the scene, Whitebeard twisted gate to scan the battlefield, his eyes flashed with unspeakable colors, and took advantage of the chance to retreat during a confrontation with Marshal Sengoku. Marco, take all the staff and evacuate. Whitebeard yelled in the direction of the captains fighting against the Shichibukai. The situation is different. Their goal has been accomplished. Ace has been rescued. There is no need to fight Marine here, and there are more variables such as BIGMOM and Earl Red on the battlefield. Father, people like Marco and Beasta naturally understand that they don't need to fight here anymore. There is no point in competing with Marine up and down. At this time, Marco and the others who heard Whitebeard's retreat order all got out of the battle and retreated. When the captains of the various teams left, they found that Daddy Whitebeard still showed no signs of retreating, but had an indescribable look. Marco gave a squeak in his heart. Advertisement. Since childhood, Daddy Whitebeard knows too well, Daddy is going to stay for them. Father, let's go together. I'm with you, Daddy. As Marco turned around and shouted nervously, the others also reacted, and Ace couldn't help but want to stand beside Whitebeard. Naughty. Marco, take them away. The new era has no ship that can carry me, so let's make a break here. Whitebeard glared at his sons angrily, and then with a smile on his face, Sengoku said with a serious face. Sengoku did not take the initiative to attack at this time, but it was ugly, and he couldn't help but bit his teeth, which was very complicated. What will happen to a man who has no scruples and has the power to destroy the world who fights here to his heart? I can't imagine it at all. However, if this is the case, it is also more certain to keep Whitebeard. In the current situation, it is nothing to run Fire Fist Ace. It would be great if Whitebeard can be kept, and the majesty of Marine can be restored. Whitebeard stayed at this time and wanted to make his death more meaningful, but the killing intent to look at Kaido and Blackbeard Teach was pervasive. If it weren't for Marineford now, and Marco, Joes and others behind him, I'm afraid they would have killed them directly. Seeing Whitebeard staying behind with death, the Red Earl Letterfield, who had not rushed away not far away, narrowed his eyes slightly. Twist Getter, are you sure? Letterfield said solemnly at this time. Nowadays, there are not only the 4 emperors, but also Marineford, who has the remnants of the old age, fighting with the idea of dying here. I am afraid that everything will not succeed. With Whitebeard's reputation and strength, I am afraid that it will become the target of the group attack in an instant. Are you sure? The 4 words made Whitebeard Twistgate hesitate at this time. Indeed, in terms of his current situation and the tricky guys present, he would really die here meaninglessly. And at this moment, Marco and others are still some distance away, and there is only a huge Sengoku standing in front of Whitebeard. A person who was surprised to notice killed Whitebeard and twisted Gat. Advertisement. Blackbeard Teach directly shook off Kizaru who was fishing, and rushed towards Whitebeard with black mist rising all over his body. Looking at Daddy Whitebeard, whose breath is no longer as good as before, and then looking at the surroundings, Teach knows that now is the best time to start. As long as you succeed, you can take this world-destroying power as your own. Direct shot. Martial Sengoku will definitely not stop him. Kizaru didn't expect it either, but looked surprised and didn't leave. Blackbeard Teach really shot Whitebeard, and the black mist all over his body was even stronger than just now. It was Whitebeard's killing intent that twisted Gate's eyes. This B************ D really dared to do it on himself. It's just right to dare to come. Sengoku's solemn expression flashed with surprise, and even took a step back. Blackbeard Teach dared to attack Whitebeard. Father, look, this is the ability that I can cut before I don't hesitate to pay, the strongest fruit ability, darkness. Blackbeard Teach's face was full of murderous intent and greed, and he rushed over and did not forget to show Whitebeard the dark fruit he would get when he betrayed. Damn you, Teach. Whitebeard twisted the killing intent and anger in Gate's eyes even more terrifying, and said coldly. This time, kill Blackbeard completely. However, just as Blackbeard was about to use his tricks against Whitebeard, a group of figures suddenly appeared on the smoky ice behind Whitebeard and walked over. Finally caught up. How about 0.0 Whitebeard? I was right, but unfortunately you didn't follow my advice, otherwise you wouldn't almost let Ace lose his life. A group of figures approached, and the leading one-armed man showed his appearance, with red hair and a long knife stuck in his waist. Redhead Shanks. There was a trace of sweat on Blackbeard Teach's forehead, and I never thought that the red hair would appear here. Behind the red-haired Shanks, Ben Beckman, Usopp, and Lakilu were all listed. 4 emperors, red-haired Shanks. Everyone present couldn't help showing a surprised look. Even the marine soldiers showed a look of shock. In front of the live broadcast of Sabayati Archipelago, a group of people were shocked that their jaws fell. Chapter 81. Want to stop me? Do you think you are a white lion? Advertisement. The people who were not in the battle or in front of the live broadcast were completely stunned. After the appearance of the red-haired Shanks, Marineford alone has gathered all the powerhouses in the world. The 3 major forces of the Grand Line, 4 emperors, 7 warlords of the sea, naval headquarters. What a crazy battle. Everyone's hearts are extremely worried. What will the world become after this time? In Admiral, they chase and block Kaido, Big Mom and others are all kinds of big tricks to block it. The White Lion is no longer with you, so you want to stop me. Kaido led the 3 plagues Jack, Quinn, Jin, Phase 6 and his men to the side of the harbor to withdraw, avoiding the Whitebeard pirate group. However, Akainu Sakazuki led the 6th Vice Admiral and the giant marine, who was already on the field, surrounded the past. Kaido was furious, and now he has to lead his subordinates to retreat and escape. Marine still has to pursue such perseverance. Really think it is the White Lion Shashing is still in Marine. When Akainu Sakazuki heard Kaido's words, his eyes didn't change, he was extremely cold, and he chased the past all the way. Meteor Volcano. 27 inches. The hands turned into lava, and one after another huge flame fists flew into the midair clouds, continuously. Half of the sky was dyed red, and then, a lava fireball like a meteor was left directly covering everyone in Beast's Pirates, and it continued to fall, and every fireball was huge. With such an offensive, the people of Beast's Pirates couldn't directly rush forward, and they were shocked. Although Kaido still had a huge wound on his body, after breaking free from Seastone's restraint, his injury has eased a lot. At this time, it was directly stepping on the ground, and a huge crack appeared, and the purple thunder flashed in the form of a huge blue dragon. Do you think this can stop me? A red light flashed from the eyes of the Kaido blue dragon, which was as big as a human. The dragon's body twisted and set off a violent hurricane, carrying Meteor Volcano, which fell directly into the sky. The sound of booming sounded constantly. All Akainu's attacks were blocked. In the face of an offensive like a natural disaster, Jin, Jack and Quinn looked very ugly. They are still in a state of serious injury. The recovered power has been basically used up after breaking free of the mirror cuffs, and now there is nothing but fleeing desperately. Other ways. Advertisement. Akainu's great eruption was blown out directly by the bad wind that was set off between the rotation of the dragon's body, and then it was swept into pieces by the dragon's tail. This scene directly stunned the Vice Admiral, and made Akainu's face so ugly that it couldn't stop Kaido at all. The 3 plagues and the flying 6 powers, as well as the pirates under them, quickly ran away and evacuated. However, what I didn't expect was that when the attack was over, there was a figure of Kaido dragon in the clouds in the sky. Kaido took this opportunity to fly away, and only the purple thunder could be seen flashing on the clouds in the distance. The 3 plagues, Fei Lubao and others have also gone far. Damn it. With embarrassment on Akainu's face, he gritted his teeth and ran after him again. Kaido, galloping in midair, was also relieved. I have been seriously injured by the White Lion Shashing. If Akainu gets entangled more, I am afraid that I will soon lose strength and lose energy. I will slip away while the heat is erupting. Akainu Sakazuki couldn't keep Kaido and others at all, but still unwilling to pursue the three plagues and others, Vice Admiral followed one after another. At the same time on the other side, Aokiji Kuzan led the other group of Vice Admirals, exuding icy chills, and directly created a thick and towering ice wall to block the steps of Bigmom and Katakuri. Aokiji. The 4 stars of Katakuri and Cracker looked ugly and couldn't help looking at Bigmom. They were severely injured by the White Lion Xia Xing's internal injuries, and there was no extra fighting power to resist the pursuit of Marine led by Aokiji. Prometheus. Zeus. Bigmom was also suppressed by Shashing just now and was injured again. At this time, there was no way but to bring up all the remaining strength. The flames in the left hand, the thundercloud in the right hand, and both hands directly swept at the ice wall in front of you. The ice wall of this thickness could not resist Big Mom's attack and collapsed suddenly. Perispero, Daifuku and others helped the 4 stars such as Katakuri quickly crossed the evacuation immediately. Advertisement. Bigmom turned and looked at the chasing Aokiji and others with anger. Do you think you are a white lion? Bigmom's heart has long been aggrieved, he is not the opponent of the white lions, and now even Aokiji wants to keep himself. The 4 emperors are the 4 emperors after all. Even if they are injured and consume a lot, Aokiji dare not relax at all. Immediately the ability of frozen fruit is activated, and the huge ice bird rushes out and continues to block. Bigmom waved the thunderclouds and flames while retreating and dispelled Aokiji's attack. All of a sudden, the ice melted, and a lot of mist appeared. The injury in the body is faintly aching, and the fruit ability is activated, and the body is running out. At this moment, Bigmom turned around, the thundercloud in his hand became bigger to support Bigmom, and quickly flew away. Aokiji was surprised at 6:30, and Vice Admiral was even more surprised. Didn't Bigmom take a shot in a rage, and ran away? In the end, Aokiji sighed with ups and downs of thoughts in his heart. It seemed that it was extremely difficult for him to leave the injured 4 emperors. I really don't know the deterrence of the attack of the White Lion Boy, but he can even escort these guys directly over. Red Earl and Bullet teamed up with the hero Garp to be completely suppressed and beaten. Red Earl Letterfield knew that even if he was at his peak, he was not necessarily an opponent of Garp. Bullet and Garp faced off with his injured body, and his face was blue and red. Just stay impel down well. Why do you run out and provoke the White Lion Boy? When Garp faced the poor Red Earl, Bullet was naturally very relaxed, and he could even talk while fighting. At this time, the red-haired Shanks appeared. Seeing that Kaido and Bigmom flee one after another, in various situations, the Red Earl and Bullet did not dare to fight, and when the energy burst on the left and right broke out, they directly began to flee. Escape here is now the most important thing. Suddenly, Kaido, Bigmom and Red Earl had no intention of staying here for a long time and fled frantically. Chapter 82. Marine is embarrassed. Advertisement. Marineford, the scene was in chaos, and the red-haired Shanks and the gang started walking straight ahead. In front are Marshal Sengoku, Shichibukai and others, and Blackbeard Teach is among them. When the red-haired Shanks appeared, Hawkeye Mahawk turned and left without any delay. He doesn't want to see this D redhead now. Whitebeard, you can retreat and leave it to us to take care of the aftermath. Kaido and Bigmom have escaped one after another, and New World will eventually restore balance. The red-haired Shanks knew Whitebeard's temper, but at this time he couldn't help but say again, with an inexplicable meaning in his tone. There are some things that Marine's presence cannot disclose. Keep your balance, redhead boy, are you waiting for the person Roger is waiting for? Whitebeard twisted and looked at the huge golden Buddha Sengoku in front, and the Blackbeard Teach who had betrayed the Iron Law, and finally sighed deeply. Maybe now is really not the time to fight to the death. I owe you a favor. Now that he figured it out, Whitebeard twisted gait and naturally wouldn't procrastinate. He glanced at Blackbeard with a murderous look, and then turned and walked towards Marco and the others. The captains of the various teams and Ace were overjoyed. I don't know what the red hair said that caused the old man to give up and continue to break the post, but the old man evacuated with them. Whitebeard. Sengoku couldn't understand what Whitebeard and Redhead said, but he was about to leave. He couldn't help but feel anxious and wanted to chase after him, but the Redhead Shanks and his group were in front of him. Teach Blackbeard, almost really caused you to set off a huge wave of New World, but now, your plan is shattered. The red-haired Shanks looked at Blackbeard Teach with extremely solemn eyes. This guy has been hiding his strength, until the waves of the times are set off to reveal his true face. Judging from his appearance, the target turned out to be Whitebeard. It's really changed a lot, Redhead. Advertisement. Sweat came out of Blackbeard Teach's head, and he never thought that the red-haired Shanks had come so in time. Seeing Father Whitebeard leave, he didn't dare to directly break through the block of the red-haired group at this time. Marshal Sengoku, and you, if you still want to fight, then we red-hair pirates will play with you. Shanks, eyes filled Haki at this time, and he pulled out Griffin's long knife from his waist with one arm. Behind him, Ben Beckman, Reikalu, Usopp and a group of people all made a fighting posture. Sengoku's complexion was ugly, and he bit his teeth and looked at the red-haired group. In the end, he put away the fruit ability and changed back to a human form. Red Hair Pirates is the most ironclad pirate group, and the strength of people like Ben Beckman is not very powerful, and it is still in full swing. At this time, Marine can no longer increase opponents. Sengoku took a deep look at the red-haired Shanks, and could only deal with the other pirates at this time. He looked at Blackbeard teach where the black mist was still pervading, and he snorted directly and attacked the past with golden light in his hands. What did this Blackbeard do? Sengoku now knows very well. At the same time, Big Keg, Katrine and others were directly pursued and fought by Marine. As for Blackbeard teach, watching Whitebeard and his party leave, the red-haired Shanks hasn't moved yet, but Marshal Sengoku just started it. Taking a look at the red-haired Shanks, Blackbeard teach turned his head directly while Marshal Sengoku was not in the Golden Buddha state. Catherine saw that the Whitebeard Pirates had begun to evacuate. Kaido and Big Mom also broke away from Admiral's pursuit, and quickly moved closer to Blackbeard teach and escaped. San Juan. The wolf directly raised the entire warship to Marshal Sengoku and threw it over, stopping Sengoku's footsteps. When Blackbeard teach quickly escaped, he found Berndy Waldo, who was still in a coma between the inner bay and the ice, and could not help showing a sinister smile. Although he didn't take Whitebeard's ability, the Momo fruit of this guy also has great potential. It can be considered that I didn't come in vain today. Thinking, when everyone was not paying attention, Blackbeard teach kidnapped Berndy Waldo directly, and then fled wildly with the wolf, badgers, Big Keg and others. Advertisement. The redhead Shanks saw all this in his eyes, but couldn't pursue Blackbeard teach either. The Whitebeard pirate group is evacuating, and Aokiji, Akainu, Kizaru and Admiral can't stop Kaido, Big Mom and others from escaping. They are pulling towards the red-haired Shanks. Garp was also shook his head and was calculated by the Red Earl, but both Bullet and Red Earl were chased and lost. Mr. Sengoku. At this time, Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru all looked gloomy and looked at red-hair pirates who were also about to leave. Pirates, you should kill them all. Akainu Sakazuki suffocated the fire at this time, and Marine's face was greatly embarrassed during the public execution that was watched all over the world. Now that I saw the red-haired group, I even braved the lava and wanted to make a move. Forget it, Sakazuki, isn't it embarrassing enough? Marshal Sengoku shook his head heavily and said. At first glance, all Marineford soldiers were all decadent. Shichibukai's Gecko Moria, Dover, Wang Hao, Lang Mingay and others stood by with inexplicable smiles. Blackbeard teach, San Juan Evil Wolf, Kaido, Big Mom, Red Earl, none of them caught. Even Fire Fist Ace was rescued. The Whitebeard pirates only retreated with minor casualties. Marine was embarrassed this time. Now we can't keep the red-haired them, let them go, stay and clean the battlefield. Marshal Sengoku stared blankly at the red-hair pirates group away. What I thought of at this moment in my mind was not about the responsibility that I was about to assume. It was the criminals of the Blackbeard pirate group, as well as the Red Earl and Bullet. After these guys are free again, I am afraid they will cause unimaginable disasters to this world. Chapter 83. Reward for the White Lion, 10 billion. Advertisement. The war at Marineford came to an end. Many people in Sabayati Archipelago watched the live broadcast go out, and they were silent for a long time. Even the supernovas didn't react at once, only Pluten Rayleigh drank and laughed. It was also with the final departure of the red-haired Shanks and the group that the great battle triggered by the right public execution in Marineford ended. In such a war, an unprecedented gathering of 4 emperors took place, the legendary pirates appeared, the impel down was broken, and so on. After a short silence, Sabayati Archipelago was full of uproar. Various discussions sounded one after another. Naval headquarters is embarrassed this time. The execution was unsuccessful, and the pirates have not been caught yet. You can't say that. You know, the 4 emperors are all here, and all the members of the pirate group, and the prisoners of Impel Down who escaped. This is understandable, but the most embarrassing thing is that Marine didn't keep the White Lion Admiral, right? Such a powerful admiral, Marine actually let him resign from his position as admiral. There was a lot of discussion in the crowd, and everyone talked about the White Lion Shashing. After all, after the battle, the strength of the White Lion Shashing is really amazing. 6:30. No one has ever been strong enough to be so horrible. Looking at Marine, Kaido and Big Mom couldn't be caught in the end. In the beginning, they were all injured and escorted by the White Lion. Having said this, all the talents reacted. Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru and Kaido, Big Mom and other people in the battle can be seen by the audience, and the admiral can't even hurt them. However, the White Lion Shashing can directly suppress them, and can even easily wound their 4 emperors and the legendary pirates. Especially when the White Lion escorted so many powerful people on stage, it really shocked countless people. Everyone couldn't stop talking about it, and even many people began to say that Whitebeard Twistgate is no longer the strongest man in the world, the White Lion is. Whitebeard can only be regarded as the most destructive, not the strongest in combat. Advertisement. For a while, Shashing was completely at the center of the world's attention. New World, which seems to continue to maintain balance, seems to be upset. Rayleigh, who was sitting on a high place and drinking, finally shook his head and lost his body-shaped jaw to the roof. Supernovas who were still on the island. Apple only breathed a sigh of relief after seeing Kaido and Beast's pirates escape. Hawkins, Kid and others left with complicated expressions. I don't know if it is fortunate or emotional, but the White Lion has now chosen to leave Marine. However, as Morgans and others began to pass on the incident of Naval Headquarters Marineford and the incident of Impel Down, it set off endless discussions and shocks above the sea. However, all the voices were almost concentrated on Xia Xing's body, making the world deeply sigh the horror of Shashing. The other side, Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru 3. Admiral went to sea to pursue the pursuit and eventually returned without success. The 5 elders who learned the news were even more furious, and immediately summoned Marshal Sengoku and the 3 Admiral to pass Mariajoy. Between the power, the roar of 5 elders reverberated, and the 5 people standing on the peak were really angry when such a thing happened. Marine is the facade of the world government, and now Marine has lost such a big face, it is equivalent to the face of the world government. The old man in kimono stood up angrily, almost pointing at the noses of Sengoku and San Admiral and cursing. Not only did Whitebeard save Roger's bloodline, but a group of pirates fled in front of you. This is a shame. The old man with a birthmark on his face even slapped the table and roared. This time it happened that even people at the pinnacle of power like 5 elders couldn't suppress the anger in their hearts. And the White Lion, he should have been arrested here at that time. I didn't say anything about celestial dragons, and let off those criminals and pirates who impel down. For the majesty of the world government, the White Lion must be punished. Absolutely. Can't be merciless. Issue a wanted order immediately. Advertisement. The 5 elders scolded, and then they said that Xia Xing's eyes flashed coldly. The strength shown by the White Lions makes the 5 elders regret it. This kind of combat strength is still because of celestial dragons, leaving Marine on the outside. It really can't let the 5 elders rest assured. In a sense, Xia Xing's ability is already even scarier than ancient weapon. 5 elders, this matter still needs to be carefully considered. With Shashing now easily suppressing the 2-4 Emperor's pirate group and impel down this kind of combat power, now that he is really pushed to the opposite side, I am afraid it will attract an unmatched enemy to Marine. What? Marshal Sengoku couldn't help being surprised, and said hurriedly. The trio of Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru were even more complicated when they heard that they wanted to issue a wanted warrant immediately. Shashing not only worked with them as colleagues, but after issuing the wanted order, it represented a completely different position, and more importantly, Xia Xing's invincible Conqueror's Haki, even if it is shot, it is not an opponent. Akainu clenched his fist tightly at this time, trying to say something but finally did not say it. Even so, the identity of the descendant of celestial dragons is not to be profaned. The majesty of God is not to be offended. The 5 elders snorted when they heard Sengoku's words, and insisted on making a wanted. Marshal Sengoku was speechless. Seeing the attitude of the 5 elders, he realized that the matter was completely qualitative. Committed these crimes, coupled with strong strength, the White Lion's bounty is set at 10 billion. The white-haired elder who had not spoken all the time tapped his fingers on the armrest of the sofa, and finally said a value that shocked both Sengoku and San Admiral. 10 billion. This is already a higher reward than the dead rocks. Even if it is now propagating the idea of freedom all over the world, with the purpose of overthrowing the world government, called the most vicious criminal, the revolutionary monkey D dragon does not have such a shocking reward. Sengoku, there is no need to talk about this. You Marine will not allow such embarrassing things to happen again. 5 elders said solemnly. Sengoku was naturally clear to them. The defeat of the war is actually more biased towards the fact that everything is caused by the White Lion Shashing. Coupled with fear, the 5 elders simply gave an unprecedented reward. Chapter 84. 4 emperors want to join forces with the world government. Advertisement. In the end, Sengoku and San Admiral walked out of power in silence, and sighed deeply. Above the ocean today, even if the bounty is so exaggerated, who really dares to trouble Shashing? Unless all people unite. Subsequently, the speed of the world government was very fast, and the reward order, which was enough to cause shock all over the world, spread from the Holy Land Mariajoy to the whole world quickly, causing a shock. A reward of tens of billions, this is simply unprecedented. The 7 capitals of water, the Fishman Island and other major islands, as well as the southeast, northwest, and western waters, underground forces and major kingdoms have seen the rewards issued by the world government one after another. It really is the guy who suppressed the 4 emperors and made the legendary pirates bow their heads. I am afraid that the world government made the wrong move this time. How fearful are the 5 elders that this White Lion will issue such an unprecedented high reward? Suddenly, the discussion about Shashing in the sea never stopped. At this time, 2 dilapidated warships were docked on the edge of a deserted island in New World. On the island, he fled Marineford all the way, directly used his ability to cross the Red Line and came to the New World. Kaido and Big Mom led the 2 large pirate groups to gather here. White Lion Shashing. Seeing Xia Xing's lazy smile on the reward order, Kaido and Big Mom couldn't help gritting their teeth. Since the end of the Rocks era, they have never suffered such a shame. They were directly escorted to Marineford, and were handcuffed in a mirror in front of the world. This hatred must be repaid anyway. Kaido felt that all 10 scars on his body were aching, although they were all healed now. He is too strong. You should know which of the strong Kaido had at the time. It is no exaggeration to say that the White Lion is already comparable to the Captain Rocks back then. What else can you do? Big Mom shook his head with a gloomy expression. He also wanted to find this place back, but he couldn't think of any way to deal with Shashing. Katakuri, Curry, Cracker and others, Jack, Jin, Quinn, and others, as well as the Flying Six Powers, the ministers of nations thought of the terrible Shashing at the time, and they couldn't help feeling a little frustrated. With these 3 calamities, the 4 general stars were only hit by Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki, and they were directly seriously injured. Such as Phase 6 Powers, Tai Fook, Paraspero and others could not even take the power of deterrence, and they were directly stunned to the ground. Advertisement. Not to mention that I really saw the White Lion Shashing shot, just as Conqueror's Haki looked at it, this is almost invincible. Unbreakable defense, can't hold back damage. How should such a man overcome? All of a sudden, the atmosphere of everyone fell into silence, with complex expressions. Even Kaido, who wanted revenge the most, had no worries for a fight. At this moment, Plague Quinn's eyes lit up and pointed to the 10 billion wanted warrant in his hand. If you want to find a way to deal with Shashing, isn't world government the best choice? As soon as Kui said this, Big Mom and Kaido were both stunned, looking at the world government sign on the wanted order, their eyes brightened. Marine and world government are probably the best choices. And now it seems that 5 elders seems to want Shashing to die more. How is it possible, Brother Quinn, how could world government and Marine cooperate with the pirates? Jack the Dro looked at the expressions of Kaido-sama and Big Mom, and couldn't help but ask a little silly. This is also the question in the hearts of many pirates around, why both Kaido-sama and Big Mom seem to think it is feasible. Oh, Big Mom couldn't help grinning when he heard Jack's question. No, 38 years ago, Marine and the pirate teamed up to defeat the scariest existence at the time, rocks. Kaido also took out his own Tianzi hip flask at this time, and said with a big mouthful. Speaking of this matter, the eyes are a bit complicated. Big Mom also put away the laughter, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Only our 2 big 4 Emperor's pirate regiments won't have a good chance of attracting more people, but if the world government is added, there will be a chance. Big Mom said with a memory in his eyes, which made the surrounding 3 plagues, 4 general stars and other pirates very curious. Big Mom and Kaido seem to be very sure that Marine and the pirates are not incapable of cooperating, and after the world government joins, they have the opportunity to attack the White Lion that has become such a powerful one. For flowers advertisement. That terrifying battle in the Valley of Gods back then, you should know a little bit of rumors more or less, it is this battle, it is not known to the outside world that Roger and Garp joined forces to kill rocks. It's the 5 elders at the center of power in the world. Kaido even directly told the true secrets of the year. At the last sentence, he held it in his hand, and slammed the hip flask on the ground with a very solemn voice. 5 elders, Jack, Quinn, Jin, Katakuri, Cracker and others never thought that Kaido would say such amazing words. This made Jack and the others stunned. 0. It turns out that it was 5 elders who really killed rocks back then. The members of the 4 generals and the 3 plagues, as well as the surrounding 2 large pirate groups, were a little bit shocked in their hearts. The White Lion Shashing is indeed very strong. Even my teaming with Kaido is not an opponent, but if the world government can also be brought in, with the strength of the White Lion, 5 elders will sooner or later take action. Even rocks can be killed. The current White Lion Shashing is similar to rocks in our opinion. 5 elders has that strength. Big Mom said with a smile, his eyes brightened. Both Kaido and Big Mom understand that like this kind of invincible opponent, if they can't care about it at all, they will definitely become a hindrance on their path to becoming a king. Shashing is so young that it must be removed first. Mom, but the world government may not trust us. Katakuri quickly calmed down and said, if we go directly, the world government will certainly not believe us, but I know there is someone who can help us communicate directly with the world government, even 5 elders. He smiled. Big Mom looked at the sea and replied. Communicate directly with the world government, even 5 elders. Who can have such a relationship? Everyone was a little puzzled. According to the tone of Big Mom, this guy who can be an intermediary seemed difficult to guess. Redhead, Shanks, 0. Chapter 85. Blackbeard can't laugh anymore. Advertisement. Red hair. Hearing the name Big Mom said, everyone looked at each other in amazement again. The news spread everywhere. The Morgan's newspaper introduced Xia Xing's deeds in detail, and even the battle with Impel Down at that time. Suppressing the 2-4 Emperor's pirate groups in Impel Down, the terrible criminals of Impel Down, escorted a bunch of strong men in Marineford, and directly in front of the world, Marshal Sengoku resigned from Marine Admiral and resigned from Marine. Before leaving, he even claimed to kill celestial dragons, so that celestial dragons had better not encounter him. This list of news also contains the latest tens of billions of rewards released by the world government, and Shashing has also become the unprecedented highest reward criminal. This led to the Marineford War incident that had ended, but instead became more and more fierce. Various voices continued to discuss. In particular, Shashing defeated 4 emperors Kaido and Big Mom alone, as well as the legendary pirate Red Earl and Bullet, who were escorted to Marineford to appear in Marineford and still shocked more people. Suddenly, even the fame of Shashing, an extremely remote sea area, spread over. It even became a chat for every family. On an island in New World, this is called Sleeping Ancient Town. Here, Red Earl Letterfield did not meet Patong 2 years later. Instead, he came here alone and found the monster species, bat fruit, and vampire form, and gained this ability after eating it. At this time, Letterfield was sitting in the bat cave, while sucking up the blood of a young woman. Her appearance and physical condition were regaining her youth, while she was watching with a newspaper in her hand. White Lion Shashing, there will still be a battle between you and me. Red Earl Letterfield licked the bright red blood at the corner of his mouth, his eyes full of indifference. The lonely red that was able to compete with Roger, Whitebeard, and Golden Lion alone is back. The same as New World. On a giant island, where the mountains and forests are lush, all kinds of huge beasts are infested, it is a beast island that humans can hardly reach. Suddenly, on the originally peaceful island, there was a rumbling, and the birds and beasts scattered. With his naked torso and muscles exposed, Bullet was holding a newspaper in his hand and looking at the photo of Shashing on it. His anger rose even more. White Lion. Advertisement. Bullet yelled, and Haki's fist directly smashed a towering mountain. The whole island is shaking. After a long time, Bullet calmed down the anger in his heart and walked directly to the next huge mountain. Continue to practice until you surpass the White Lion. Next time, at least let him make a real shot. Only the obsession to become stronger is left in Bullet's heart. The power of Shashing has penetrated into the soul. Bullet, who constantly wants to surpass the strong, has not given up, but has become more determined. Not far from the waters of Whitebeard's sphere of influence. The sea is full of wreckage of ships. Beside, Blackbeard Teach, Badgers, Van Oka, Big Keg, Katrine and others were all standing on a raft made up of 4 big logs, their eyes coldly looking at the floating shipwreck. The huge stature of the San Juan wolf stood on the sea, and the water just flooded his chest. And Blackbeard Teach was laughing. Momo fruit is really good. Teach's eyes were full of fierceness. Just now they snatched a pirate group and directly smashed the pirate ship on the opposite side with a punch. At this time, Lafayette handed Teach a newspaper with a solemn expression, and Teach's laughter ceased in an instant. 10 billion rewards. White Lion. Even the photos of the White Lion now make Blackbeard's pupils tremble, and his thoughts turn sharply. Only with the ability to hunt down Whitebeard can you fight against a pervert like the White Lion. Thinking about it, a sinister color flashed through Blackbeard's eyes. Just when Teach was thinking about how to find a chance to seize Whitebeard's ability. At this time, Whitebeard Twisting Gate is leading the whole staff and the whole staff of Red Hair Pirates to have a grand banquet on an island in New World. The 2 Four Emperors pirate groups gathered together, and it was the first time that Whitebeard and the Red Hair coexisted peacefully. Father, even if you are happy, you can't drink so much now. Marco stood in front of Whitebeard, persuading him with a bitter face. Advertisement. With the painful body and the injuries he received before, Marco, as a ship doctor, was really uneasy. Whitebeard grumbled and laughed. A sentence about how a man could hesitate to drink while alive stuffed it back, leaving Marco at a loss. Even the red-haired Shanks was red-headed and let Whitebeard drink. If it hadn't been cleared up, Marco really doubted whether the red hair was deliberate. At this moment, a pirate happened to ran over with a reward order and a newspaper. 10 billion rewards. Even Whitebeard and the red hair couldn't help but be stunned. The world government actually offered a reward of this amount. It seems that 5 elders against the White Lion Shashing is not just a matter of playing celestial dragons. It's the strength of the White Lion that matches this amount. Whitebeard took the reward order and handed it to Shanks, the redhead. Even Whitebeard feels that tens of billions are low in terms of strength. The redhead Shanks was a little surprised, looking at the White Lion on the reward order. Even you, Whitebeard, said that, indicating that the White Lion mentioned in the news is even stronger. I really want to try it against him personally. Redhead Shanks laughed blackly. Your Conqueror's Haki is strong enough, but it hasn't reached the level of solidification. He can cover it with Conqueror's 0.0 Haki. Whitebeard grinned with a grunt, but didn't say who would be stronger. But this sentence made Shanks the redhead burst into his heart. This is Conqueror's Haki above the top. The more powerful he is, the more I want to see this man who is now known as stronger than Whitebeard. Father, you said that the White Lion Shashing quit Marine, where will he be now? Beside, Diamond Joes, who had a broken arm, drank directly with a large wine barrel, and said with a smile when he heard the red hair. Who knows, it is said that this White Lion is very lazy and doesn't like to walk around, even if he is still near Marineford. Marco persuaded Whitebeard to no avail. At this time, he knew he was sitting aside, and said presumably. Where is the White Lion Shashing? Chapter 86. Shichibukai collectively went to the White Lion. Advertisement. Near Bigmom's IWC, an island town not far from Jam Island. The town here is rich in the world's best and most delicious pineapple pie, and at the same time it is also protected by the Bigmom pirate group. It is precisely because of the protection of Bigmom that this small island has always been very comfortable. In the town at this time, a large group of people surrounded the shop selling pineapple pie. While buying the food, it was also very lively with the shop owner talking about the recent major events in the world. The recent war really shocked the world. The 4 emperors gathered there, and even Queen Bigmom participated in it. A customer was talking endlessly with the person next to him. The owner of the pineapple pie shop smiled, then his expression was a little serious, and the movements in his hand kept saying. The news in the newspaper said that even the Queen and another 4 emperors Kaido did not win the Admiral White Lion. Boss, what Admiral? That White Lion Shashing resigned from Admiral in front of everyone at Marineford. I heard that 27 has disappeared without a trace during this time. The customer couldn't help but say when he heard the word Admiral. The surrounding customers rushed into the discussion. We have all seen Her Majesty the Queen. The hell-like atmosphere will make people feel trembling. I really can't imagine anyone who can be strong enough to defeat. At this time, a customer said, but his eyes saw a somewhat familiar figure approaching, and he was stunned. Sky blue t-shirt, white shorts, casual flip-flops, walked over happily, the young face was full of laziness. Boss, give me some pineapple pie. Shashing digs into Kabuto and is about to take money out. At this time, all the talents reacted, looking at this face, then looking at the newspaper in their hands, the whole body shuddered, and they couldn't help but let out an exclamation. Admiral White Lion. Advertisement. Everyone's eyes trembled. What they were really talking about. They were still discussing the White Lion Shashing, and now they really appeared in front of them. What a shock. Afterwards, everyone was frightened and quickly fled away, leaving only the dumbfounded store owner at the bustling store entrance. It wasn't much when talking about it, but the White Lion Shashing is a hostile relationship with Big Mom. The horror of Big Mom is deeply ingrained in the hearts of these residents, and the power of Shashing is spreading, and even the world government has issued a reward of up to tens of billions. Of course these residents are terrified. Shashing frowned speechlessly, and couldn't help touching her face. Is my little boy's face so scary? Muttered. Then looking at the trembling boss, she was afraid of her speechless boss. Shashing shook her head, and could only put all the Baileys in Kabuto on the table, and picked it up. The pile of pineapple pie carried away. Xia Xing's presence here is completely attracted by the well-known pineapple pie here. And I also got a place here. As the news came so fast, Shashing felt a little helpless. If it weren't for this stuttering, I wouldn't even be able to move the door at all, just like that. Carrying a bunch of pineapple pie and walking on the way back to their residence, suddenly there was a noise on the street. Some residents went home in a hurry and closed the door quietly. It seemed that there was something in front of them that made them feel scared. Things. I didn't cause it, huh? Shashing was really speechless on this trip, but then she found a group of people walking oncoming, and she couldn't help being surprised. That group of people turned out to be the current or former Shichibukai great pirates. Doflamingo, Empress Hancock, Hawkeye Mahawk, Seaman Jinbei, Gecko Moria, and even the Sand Crocodile are among them. Why are you all here? Shichibukai gathered. Shashing was a little confused, but it was only an accident, and she still walked without stopping. When Doflamingo, Gecko Moria and others saw Shashing who was walking in front of them, they immediately showed a surprised look. According to the information, I finally found the White Lion Shashing. Advertisement. Everyone walked over to Shashing, and Shashing also watched these guys walk over indifferently. Isn't it the world government sent to make trouble? Shashing thought to himself, this is not impossible. If it is to ask for trouble, there are probably more than so many people around. Of course, Shashing doesn't matter. As soon as the happy Shichibukai approached, Doflamingo first made clear his intentions in order to prevent the White Lion from misunderstanding. Your Excellency White Lion, we are not here to trouble you, but to seek an alliance with you. Doflamingo said with a smile, with a respectful tone. Look for an alliance with me. Are you Shichibukai impatient? Shashing was surprised again. This group of guys did not play cards according to the routine. I am now the criminal with the highest reward offered by the world government. I am afraid that I will be expelled by the world government directly if I find myself to cooperate. Upon hearing Xia Xing's words, Jinbei, Kirkdale and others were a bit embarrassed, and even Hancock and others who were still in Shichibukai didn't know how to go to 633. After the incident of Impel Down and Marineford, Marshal Sengoku has already asked to step down. The positions of the new Marshal Aokiji Kuzan and Akainu Sakazuki are both in contention, and there is no clear statement between the powers. Our Shichibukai's position is not good. The world government seems to have the idea of abolishing Shichibukai. We don't know which side to stand on, so we need a more reliable backing. Doflamingo directly expressed his inner thoughts, saying that it was also a little gloomy here. At this moment, Shashing understood a little bit. Why would Jinbei, a loyal guy, and Hancock also follow Doflamingo? After the war in Marineford ended, the world government actually wanted to do something to me and sent a Joker to come, but the Joker finally changed his mind. Gecko Moria also said on the side that, judging from the incident on his body, the next world government might have more actions. Doflamingo didn't do anything, but instead pulled him to find the White Lion to form an alliance. He was in favor. He and Kaido had a huge hatred that couldn't be separated. Now Shashing severely injured Kaido, and almost got it. Kaido's fate. Gecko Moria is of course very happy to form an alliance with Shashing. Chapter 87. Shichibukai. You don't have to move, we do it ourselves. Advertisement. Behind me, there is an entire Hydra Island. The world is bound to change drastically. The combination of Kaido and Big Mom is an advanced change. I can't give the destiny of Hydra Island to Marine, and outside of 4 Emperors Marine. You are the strongest, of course to unite is to find the strongest. The pirate Empress Hancock also said aloud at this time, under the beautiful face, her brows were a little frowned, and her tone was sincere. It can be seen that the White Lion is a guy who has no heart for hegemony. If you form an alliance, Hancock trusts Shashing more. Judging from his current behavior, as long as 9 Snake Island does not trouble the White Lion Shashing, if it really builds an ally, Shashing will not make Hydra Island sad. Shashing glanced at the beautiful Hancock twice, raised her eyebrows, indifferent to what they said, and continued to move forward. The Shichibukai glanced at each other and followed in the footsteps of Shashing. Everyone knew that it was not easy to invite the White Lion and Shashing would directly agree. After all, they had to rely on the powerful strength and deterrence of the White Lion. My best choice now is to enter New World. After the Alabasta coup, the world government can no longer accept me. Crocodile walked, also speaking about his situation. The failure of the Pluton clan deprived Shichibukai of his identity and was impelled down. He has become a wanted criminal again, and entering New World is the best choice. Among the many forces, only Shashing is the most favored by him. Shashing still walked in front of them arrogantly, listening to their words, but did not express anything. Power. I am not a power. It's different from them, I just want to learn from you. Hawkeye Mihawk said seriously, the battle intent rising in his heart made his eyes sharper. As the world's #1 swordsman, Marine's pressure to deal with him is no less than 4 Emperor's level combat power. He has no feelings for other Shichibukai, and is purely to challenge. Shashing smiled when she heard this, and turned to look at Jinbei the seaman. The Fishman Island should still be under the protection of Whitebeard, right? Shashing also said with some doubts, Whitebeard and Ace did not die in this battle, and the Whitebeard pirate group is still strong. My father is not in good health now, and the Whitebeard Pirates is even more overwhelmed. Advertisement. As for the old man who joined Shichibukai for the mutual acceptance of Murlocs and humans, now I am also imprisoned and escaped after impelled down. Sooner or later Marine will come to make trouble. I don't want to worry about Daddy Whitebeard. Jinbei also sighed slowly, a little helpless. The situation in the world is changing faster and faster, even the Fishman Island, which is 10,000 meters under the sea, can't get out of it. Joining White Lion Shashing is the best choice. Jinbei also thinks Shashing is a good person. After hearing the words of Shichibukai and others, Shashing was even more speechless. I refuse. The alliance is really too much trouble. I don't want to be a bodyguard with others. Go back wherever you come from, really. Shashing shook her head and decisively refused the Shichibukai's invitation to form an alliance. At this time, walking and reaching the door of his residence, everyone followed here. Doflamingo and Gecko Moria, Sand Crocodile Kirkdale and others looked at each other again. I knew that the White Lion Shashing was lazy and afraid of trouble, so they had already discussed it. Knowing that the White Lion is afraid of trouble, so we plan to transfer our power and territory here. Doflamingo took a deep breath and said it seriously. At this moment, even Shashing couldn't help but look back at Shichibukai and others behind him in surprise. Seeing that they all had firm expressions on their faces, Xia Xing's gaze invariably nodded and began to speak. My 3 sailing boats can also move at any time, even if it is an alliance, it will not cause trouble to the lion. Gecko Moria chuckled and said loudly for the first time. His territory and power are all on the Terror 3 sailing vessel, and it is also the easiest Shichibukai apart from the lone eagle-eyed Mihawk. I don't have a Baroque studio now, and all the resources can be directly mobilized here to build my own new base. If you are afraid of trouble, you can leave it to me to take care of it. Advertisement. At this time, Sand Crocodile Crocodile simply wanted to establish a brand new base here, and it also showed that Shashing would not be troubled and take the initiative to handle affairs. Although my Hydra Island cannot be moved directly in the Calm Belt, the Amazon Lily country can. The Empress Hancock also said that she would not let Shashing run around to shelter these sites, and that the important ones would relocate here directly. The Fishman Island is also inseparable from the mangroves at the bottom of the sea, but as long as you have your reputation, the Fishman Island, which is 10,000 meters deep under the sea, will not even dare to make trouble. Hexia Jinbei also said sincerely, dispelling Xia Xing's fear of trouble. The Fishman Island Kingdom will also make the world's forces afraid to act rashly because of the flag of 4 Emperors Whitebeard and the shelter of the White Lion Shashing. Of course, these are just to make the White Lion not feel troubled. In order to show our sincerity and obtain the asylum of the White Lion, we are willing to listen to the adjustments in hand in the treasures and materials. There is no need for the White Lion to do particularly difficult things. As long as the White Lion can protect this alliance, we can do our own business and maintain our own forces as usual. All of a sudden, Doflamingo and others all said that they were very sincere in their attitude. Wong is good. It seems to hand in property and other things, but also needs to listen to the dispatch. In terms of the nature of the White Lion Shashing, there is actually not a big price. But when Shashing heard that Shichibukai said so much, she couldn't help but move a little bit until the last thought. I'm worried about it. Admiral's salary has no source of income, and I'm planning to go around looting the pirates' treasures and grab some living expenses. If someone like Shichibukai said something like this, wouldn't it be impossible to think about it? At least for pineapple pie and other delicacies, don't worry about it, there will be servants' villas, which will make the life of salted fish more comfortable and cooler. Doflamingo, Moria, Hancock, and Jinbei all saw emotions on Xia Xing's face. Secretly happy in my heart, it seems to be done. I am not afraid that the White Lion will not listen, but I am afraid that the White Lion will not take it seriously, but now it seems that if you work harder, it will be done. Chapter 88. Hawkeye challenges the White Lion. Advertisement. Are there any TV bugs and game consoles? Shashing also asked tentatively at this time, especially the game console, which came out of the laboratory of the genius scientist in the Marine Science Department. Game console. No problem. Guy even has a new name over there. What kind of computing is wrong? A computer or the like can get you to play. These things are not a problem for Doflamingo, the king of underground forces. However, the name of the computer made Xia Xing's eyes brighten, and she couldn't help but wonder in her heart. There really are computers in this world. No wonder even pacifist robots can make it. It's just that there is no network, but you can also have a good time. I can agree to your invitation, but the scope of protection is only the islands of this town, and beyond this scope, it has nothing to do with me. One more thing, is to not take the initiative to cause trouble, because after the alliance, you are arrogant and domineering, so don't blame me for kicking out mercilessly. Xia Xing's temptation to have a computer is naturally acceptable, and I also tried Doflamingo and Gecko Moria. The Shichibukai immediately showed overjoyed expressions, with excitement on their faces. The White Lion finally agreed to form an alliance. You know, White Lion Shashing 633 has almost become recognized as the strongest person on the sea, and even Whitebeard Twistgate is ranked behind. It can be seen that they are now the strongest backer in the world. Sure enough, as soon as Shashing agreed, Doflamingo, Gecko Moria, Empress Hancock, Jinbei and others planned to arrange. But at this time, Hawkeye Mahawk stood up. I'm not here to form an alliance, White Lion Shashing, please agree to my request for competition. I really want to see how much difference there is between you and me. Hawkeye Mahawk's eyes have a strong fiery meaning, and once again challenged Shashing. Shashing could only sigh helplessly, it was really troublesome, but Hawkeye Mahawk insisted so much. For those who like to challenge the strong, if you don't agree, you will be stuck around, and it will be even more annoying at the time. Alright. In order to solve it all at once, Shashing could only agree, opened the door of his house and put a bunch of pineapple pies in, and then walked out again. Advertisement. Let's go to the back mountain of the island, it's better over there. Shashing put things away, inserted Kabuto and walked out, letting Mahawk follow him. Jinbei, Hancock, Doflamingo and others saw that Shashing actually agreed to the challenge of Hawkeye, and their eyes flashed with excitement. This is the horrible Conqueror's Haki that can see the White Lion again. But Xia Xing's next sentence stopped them from following. Let's discuss what's good, you guys just wait here for a while. Shashing waved her hand casually and spoke. Everyone smirked, and didn't dare to contradict them. They just stopped honestly and watched Shashing and the excited Mahawk walk towards the mountain behind, thinking about it in their hearts. To what extent can the Hawkeye Mahawk challenge the White Lion? The world's #1 swordsman, Mahawk/Shichibukai are all aware of their strengths, and this battle is indeed tiring, but at this time they can only wait. In this way, 5 people including Doflamingo and Jinbei waited for almost 10 minutes. There was a terrifying aura erupting from the back mountain. This sharp meaning was obviously the aura of Hawkeye Mahawk. As expected to be the world's #1 swordsman, the aura is really terrifying. Gecko Moria and others were shocked secretly. And the next moment, an even more violent and terrifying aura descended like sacredness. The palpitating power is permeating, making everyone can't help but tighten their eyes, and the island under their feet has also begun to tremble under this aura. In the mountains and forests outside the town, a large group of birds flew out desperately, and the ground was even more dusty, and even the beasts began to flee in horror. It seems that something extremely terrifying has appeared in Yamanaka. Even the ordinary people in the town felt heart palpitations and horror. In addition, the earthquake on the islands ran out in panic. Many people were shocked to look at the source of the post-Yamanaka's aura, not knowing the specifics. What's going on? In the rumbling sound, there were originally white clouds in the sky. The entire sea area dimmed at this time. This is the horror Conqueror's Haki created the vision. Suddenly, a green blade of light suddenly appeared. Advertisement. It was as if the sky had been cut, and the sights above the island seemed to have been cut. The dark clouds split in half and rolled back, and the strong leg wind suddenly spread across the sea. The hurricane was whistling and blowing, and then there was a bang. After the hurricane, the more violent momentum impacted, and the trees in the back mountain all rose from the ground and were blown to the sky. White Conqueror's Haki thunder and lightning were faintly visible, and they shot in all directions. Doflamingo and others saw their eyes trembled, and their hearts were even more shocking. This terrifying power is that the attack of Hawkeye Mahawk collided with Conqueror's Haki of Shashing. It was too shocking, and some ordinary people in the town were directly affected, and their hands and feet slumped weakly. What a powerful collision. Even Jinbei, who had seen Whitebeard's twisting fight, sighed at the sight. But the inability to see the specific battle process made all 5 of them itch and feel a little uncomfortable. However, just before this power had completely stopped, the entire island shook more violently. Even the surrounding sea formed a huge wave and pushed it out, and the originally split cloud layer in the sky began to twist and split. Everything is like the end of the world, and the power of the White Lion Shashing is permeating. After so far away, all 5 Jinbei felt the deterrence that made them all fear, cold sweat flowed back, and tremors couldn't even speak, and some stayed where they were. Fortunately, all this comes quickly, and so does it go. After this power broke out, everything began to calm down slowly, and the momentum began to fade. The distorted vision of the sky also began to recover, the dark clouds dissipated, and the clear sky appeared again. On the island, the original scene was restored, but the animals and ordinary people seemed to have experienced an end of the world. At this time, Doflamingo, Moria, Jinbei, Hancock, and Crocodile only slowed down, and they looked at each other in shock, speechless for a long time. Until a few minutes later, the White Lion Shashing and Mahawk walked back. Chapter 89. World government is starting to do things. Advertisement. Not surprisingly to the 5 people, the White Lion Shashing was still spotless, with the same look, lazily stretched and walked back. On the other hand, Hawkeye Mahawk has injuries on his body, and Kakuzu also wears bloodline on his body and mouth. At first glance, he looks a little embarrassed. Even the Hawkeye Mahawk, the world's #1 swordsman, was defeated so quickly. How terrifying, how powerful is Shashing. Doflamingo and others secretly sighed in their hearts, and they couldn't even believe how powerful Shashing was. Shashing and Mahawk walked over, and when they had finished their discussions, Shashing walked straight to his residence. Go back and get ready, that computer and game console as soon as possible. Shashing kept walking, grinning at Hancock and the others and commanded. So he went straight back to the house to enjoy the food. Doflamingo, Moria and others nodded their heads in agreement, and stood outside the door watching Shashing enter, and then walked towards the beach together. Mihawk, did you lose with one move? Seeing Mihawk with the bloodline hanging on his body and even the cracked wound on the tiger's mouth with the knife, Doflamingo couldn't help but ask curiously. Others also cast their curious eyes. The momentum of the battle was felt, but I was really curious about what the scene was like. Hearing Ming's curious inquiry, Mihawk couldn't help but look back in the direction of Shashing, as if Shashing could still be seen in his eyes. As soon as I shot it, it was already the most powerful move, but even the White Lion's Haki defense could not be broken, and it was 1 centimeter away. It is this centimeter, which is the difference between heaven and earth. And he didn't shoot at all, but Conqueror's Haki suppressed me like this. The words of Hawkeye Mihawk shocked the hearts of 5 people including Doflamingo and Jinbei. The White Lion still didn't make a direct shot, and even the world's strongest slash could not break the defense. No wonder the 4 emperors Kaido and Big Mom were unable to move under the suppression of the White Lion Shashing, and did not dare to resist. This man is really powerful to an incredible degree. The Shichibukai's eyes trembled, and their hearts were secretly delighted at this time. Their invitation to Shashing this time was also a success, and they have been protected by the White Lion. Excited and complicated, Shichibukai and others immediately returned to start the migration work. Advertisement. Originally there was a calm sea under the undercurrent, but also because of the big movement of Shichibukai's migration, it attracted the attention of all parties. It just so happens that the intelligence system of the Big Mom pirate group is leading above the sea, and the town where Shashing is located is also the territory of Big Mom. Charlotte Linlin and Kaido also learned the news that Shichibukai had formed an alliance and won Shashing as a backer. Joker. Quote. Kaido was instantly furious, then cried and angered, yelling impermanently. Doflamingo actually took refuge in the White Lion. That was a problem related to the establishment of his powerful army of beasts, and he still has the Master Devil Fruit in his hand. Big Mom is also a dark and terrifying aura rising. In this case, dealing with Shashing is even more difficult. In Shichibukai, except for the violent Kun Bear, the others who are delisted are still or already on the side of Shashing. A guy like Mihawk, Hawkeye, is extremely powerful, not to mention that with Shichibukai's power, Shashing is now like a tiger with more wings. Both Kaido and Big Mom fell into gloom. At this time, the flames of the 3 plagues came over, and his complexion was also extremely ugly. Master Kaido, there was an accident on Joker's side. Joker took the initiative to reduce the number of devil fruit delivered this time. The original 1,000 pieces can now only be delivered 200 pieces. They claimed that the others will be sold to other forces at a high price. Yan's tone suppressed the fierce anger. Doflamingo dares to play with them now. What? Kaido's original crying and angry expression instantly turned into a sense of anger, and purple lightning appeared on his body, and the powerful aura erupted from the bang, and the floor was cracked. Kaido is so angry now. Doflamingo, you were looking for death. Kaido grabbed the newly made mace from behind, and the murderous anger in his eyes rose to the extreme. Even losing his sanity, the man-made devil fruit is so important to Kaido right now. Doflamingo dared to do such a thing. Advertisement. Kaido. Big Mom was also full of anger, but when he saw Kaido about to run away, he hurriedly stopped Kaido. Doflamingo has now taken refuge in the White Lion Shashing. Big Mom's words finally shocked Kaido's body, and finally stopped the anger that came down. Going to trouble Doflamingo now is bound to have a head-on confrontation with the White Lion, but now who is sure to defeat that incredible guy? Kaido took a deep breath and sat down with a bang. His unwilling face was a bit hideous and terrifying. Kaido now has nightmares when he sleeps. His nightmare is Shashing. This nightmare-like sense of fear finally stopped him from running away. However, there is not a single good thing, but bad things come one after another. Kata coolly walked seriously in front of Big Mom and Kaido at this time. Feeling the heaviness in the atmosphere, Kata Curry didn't know about Doflamingo's delivery of the man-made devil fruit. He was surprised and told the new news he had obtained. MOM, the redhead Shanks refused to recommend us to contact the world government. Kata Curry hadn't finished speaking yet. Big Mom couldn't help himself this time, and the hell-like atmosphere of terror burst out. Red-haired boy, shameless, do you really think I dare not go to war with him? Big Mom's hair was flying, and Kata Curry and Jin were shocked as the pink aura rose. At this time, Kata Curry hurriedly continued. But there is good news. The world government took the initiative to approach us. At this moment, even Kaido and Big Mom calmed down instantly, with a look of surprise. The world government took the initiative to contact the 4 emperors pirates. 0. Chapter 90. Whitebeard, Golden Lion are looking for White Lion. Advertisement. According to the meaning of the world government, Akainu is competing for the position of marshal in Aokiji and will duel in Punk Hazard. Once it is over, we will have a meeting there immediately. Kata Curry said immediately. Hearing that Kaido and Big Mom both couldn't help but get a little excited. Unexpectedly, the world government took the initiative to contact them in order to deal with the White Lion. Shichibukai established an alliance and found the White Lion Xing. It can be seen that the people of Mariajoy are also unable to sit living. As long as the world government is united to deal with the White Lion Shashing, if so many powerful people come together, can it not solve the White Lion? At this moment Kaido and Big Mom both seem confident, so the red-haired Shanks is no longer important. At the same time, the Shichibukai alliance's affairs quickly spread. What is even more surprising is that even Doflamingo, Moon, 633, Hikari Moria, these guys have directly started the migration of the power turf. And to New World, an ordinary island close to the world. Just as there were surprising discussions all over the world, it didn't take long for the world government and Marine to officially announce the announcement. In addition to the Storm Coon Bear, Doflamingo, Seaman Jinbei, Gecko Moria, Empress Boa Hancock, Hawkeye Mahawk and others. And started recruiting a new Shichibukai. At the same time, the world conscription started in response to the post-war situation. All forces on the sea are extremely solemn, and even some alliance countries cannot help but wait and see in silence. From this series of actions by Marine, it can be seen that the sea may change drastically in the near future. The world conscription is understandable. After all, after the Marineford War, facing the criminals who escaped from the four emperors and impel down, Marine needs more combat power. But it is puzzling to exclude Shichibukai directly for no reason. Soon at this time, Morgans of the World Economic News Agency also quickly released the latest newspaper, which also cleared the reason for the Shichibukai's delisting. Heavenly Yaksha Doflamingo, Gecko Moria, Seaman Jinbei, and the Empress Hancock, Hawkeye Mahawk all joined the White Lion Xia Xing's subordinates. Became a member of the White Lion League. The world that has just experienced the tens of billions of rewards has not taken long again, and the White Lion Shashing has made big news again here. The Whitebeard Pirates on its own territory now also received this news, not surprisingly in itself. Advertisement. It's not surprising that the strength of the boy Shashing will attract Shichibukai to join him. His strength is obvious to all. After this fight, the world government doesn't seem to want to stop. It's a pity that I wasn't born in the same age as this guy, otherwise I would really have to learn a lot, mum la la la. Whitebeard Newgate sat on the boat with a grin, and said to the surprised Marco, Vista and others. Father, world government is also a series of actions, can we also join hands with the White Lion Shashing? After listening to Marco, his brow frowned, and after thinking about it, he made a suggestion. Fire Fist Ace, Foil Beasta and other team captains also looked at Whitebeard, to see how the old man made his choice. Cooperate. Whitebeard was silent, his eyes lightened, and when he instinctively wanted to refuse, he stopped. If there is nothing serious about his body, whether it is world government, Marine and Kaido and others, he is confident enough to protect his sons. But his current physical condition is not good, and Blackbeard Teach, who has obvious ambitions, is always near the site ready to invade, and Marine is eyeing, and he can't run around. And if Marco, Ace and others meet the Blackbeard pirate group, which now has new and powerful members, they will definitely not be opponents. After immersing for a long time, Whitebeard finally nodded. And now on the other side, Shanks, the red-haired redhead who was still sailing at sea shortly after she separated from Whitebeard, also got the Seagull's newspaper. Both Kaido and Charlotte Linlin wanted to contact the world government through me, but Shichibukai turned over and joined the White Lions League. The world government has completely cut the relationship with Shichibukai, and even re-established Shichibukai and launched a world conscription. The more I thought about it, the more dignified red-haired Shanks' face became, and his arms couldn't help holding the handle of the knife tightly. The time has not come, the signs of Joey Boye have not yet appeared, and the turmoil of the world has come too soon. I'm afraid, a war even more exaggerated than the Marineford War is about to happen. Advertisement. Ben Beckman took a deep cigarette and said slowly. Boss, if this is the case, what should we do? Lakilu couldn't help but feel a little anxious. The red-haired Shanks didn't know how to answer for a while, and looked deeply at the sea in the distance. Far beyond the Grand Line, East Blue is on a quiet sea. Several huge islands are floating in the sky at this time, surrounded by currents, and clouds are swirling around. On the huge island in the center, there is a loft, and on the top, is a flying pirate flag. This is the base camp of the flying pirates that has been immersed for many years. Gia ha ha ha, Newgate, Kaido, Linlin all appeared at Marineford. At this time, the Golden Lion was sitting in the main seat of the hall, and he was reporting the naval headquarters battle that had just happened. The 4th Admiral White Lion directly suppressed the alliance between Kaido and Big Mom during impel down, and was escorted to naval headquarters. 4 emperors gathered together in Marineford, but after the Admiral White Lion resigned and quit Marine, it happened again. To fight. He held the briefing and spoke carefully to Golden Lion Shiki. After hearing that Shashing had suppressed Kaido, Linlin, Bullet, and Red Earl alone, Golden Lion narrowed his eyes and smoked 2 big mouthfuls of cigars. Enough, wait and continue talking, where is this White Lion now? Golden Lion Shiki directly interrupted the report of his subordinates at this time, stood up, and walked to the edge of the roof with the 2 famous knives on his legs. The pirates below all slapped their tongues, some cold sweat came out, and they quickly persuaded them. Boss Shiki, we are not going to trouble with the White Lion Shashing. This guy is not easy to mess with. Now at sea, he has surpassed Whitebeard and became the strongest in the world. Chapter 91. Zephyr is here. Advertisement. Looking for trouble, who said I'm going to make trouble? I want him to form an alliance. Only such a man is qualified to cooperate with me. Shiki looked outside and smiled. This White Lion is really the same as the rumors, the ability of this body is really too much like the Captain Rocks 38 years ago. No matter what, let's go there and give it a try. When all parties were reacting, Kaido and Big Mom in 4 emperors were planning to deal with Shashing. Shashing went through the intensive actions of Doflamingo, Gecko Moria and others, and after a while, the island also changed. Most of Shichibukai's forces are stationed nearby or on this island. And Doflamingo, Sand Crocodile, Moria, Jinbei and others also came to Shashing with various belongings. On today's island, Shashing no longer lives in the original residence. Doflamingo and others let the cadres of the Don Quixote family come first to build a huge villa. Shashing is naturally very satisfied. How can I be dissatisfied with the comfortable accommodation? What's more, at 27 o'clock, I was sitting comfortably on the sofa, watching Doflamingo, Moria and others move their belongings in. Your Excellency White Lion, this is the first batch of small thoughts sent to you. Wearing a pink coat, Doflamingo smiled and asked his men to directly open the piles of boxes that had been brought in. Sand Crocodile, Gecko Moria, Hancock and Jinbei also stood by. Although Shashing is an out-and-out salted fish, I don't care much about money, it's always enough to spend. But when Doflamingo smiled and asked his men to open the big boxes one after another, he couldn't help but be surprised. This shining treasure of gold looks like a hill in front of him, which is too much. These pirates are really rich. Shashing couldn't help but muttered inaudibly. At this time, Doflamingo smiled triumphantly. He knew that Shashing didn't really care about the belongings. He stretched out his hand and waved to Diamante, so he handed a box covered with a red cloth. Doflamingo smiled directly and opened it to Shashing's hands. Advertisement. This is a game console and a TV bug. Shashing couldn't help but his eyes lit up, and then he saw Diamante still pushing a large box that was long by one person into it. That is the latest computer specially prepared for the White Lion. Doflamingo smiled, and he could see the real excitement in Shashing's eyes. Doflamingo, you did a good job this time. Shashing laughed and praised, which made Doflamingo feel even more delighted. As long as you can make Shashing accept your own benefits, you don't have to worry about not getting Shashing's value. These are the belongings we gave, Your Excellency White Lion. Now this town is completely owned by you, and the residents on the island also feel that they can live under the protection of the White Lion and have no opinion. At this time, Xia Jinbei also told some of the situation on the island. This makes Shashing also a little surprised, saying that I have never left the house except when I came to this villa from that residence, and I don't know what the situation is on the island. Is an island classified as its own territory like this? This was originally the site of BIGMOM, but so far, the BIGMOM pirate group has not sent anyone to take a look. If it was changed before, cadres had already killed the door. This is already a default. Even Marine didn't even see the shadow. At this point, everyone couldn't help but smile, and the migration this time was calm. The movement of the migration is very big, and it is all Shichibukai, and the news has been spreading over the sea. It's even more unlikely that Marine will not know, and hasn't done anything. The Marine who chased me before now dare not come close. Even when he reaches the nearby sea, he can watch from a distance and doesn't come close. Crocodile, the Sand Crocodile, sat on the chair next to him and said aloud. I went back to the Fishmen Island. After the news came out these days, the pirates who entered the New World chose to take a detour, preferring to travel in the unknown currents of life and death instead of stopping at the Fishmen Island. Advertisement. Jinbei also said with emotion at this time, these all happened after bearing the reputation of the White Lion Shashing. Those people dare not even get close, let alone the troublemakers. The people of Amazon Lily also sailed all the way. During the period, they met the pirates and Marine saw that it was the flag of Hydra and immediately began to move away. The Empress Hancock also said that he met many pirates and Marines along the way, but they were all like this. As soon as it spread in the world, he didn't dare to provoke the 9 snakes and pirates easily, but now he is staying away in a cold sweat. Obviously, Shashing, the White Lion who was able to suppress the 4 emperors after being separated from the Marine, is now deeply jealous of all forces. At the same time, Hancock and other Shichibukai also felt that Shashing was an unprecedented wise decision. It is also willing to attack these treasures, and it should be said that 633 is not a mention. Shashing didn't expect her name to be so useful now, but she didn't care about it, as long as Marine and other pirates didn't come to provoke her. At this moment, suddenly the phone in Doflamingo's pocket rang with brute. Report, Master, a Marine warship has appeared at the pier of the island. No, it's a bit different from Marines. As soon as Doflamingo was connected, there was a sound from the other end. It was obvious that he was shocked when he spotted the warship from a distance, thinking it was an enemy attack. A warship different from Marine. When Doflamingo, Sand Crocodile and others heard it, they felt strange. Suddenly there was a sound of wind on the other end of the phone, and with a bang, the appearance of the phone worm was completely changed. I'm the Marshal of Neo Marine, Zephyr, I'm here to meet the Admiral White Lion. A smile came from the phone worm, and a low voice followed. Admiral, Black Arm Zephyr in front of Naval Headquarters. Doflamingo and others do not know what power Neo Marine is, but the name of Black Arm Zephyr is still very clear. The Shichibukai immediately narrowed their eyes and became somewhat guarded. This Zephyr is also the existence of Admiral, Marine's highest combat power. Chapter 92. World government wants to unite a bunch of strong people to deal with you. Advertisement. And what good things can there be if a Marine Admiral appears here? The famous Black Arm Zephyr, of course I know it is you. You are not only the former Admiral, but also the General Instructor of Marine, but the White Lion can you see it if you can see it? Doflamingo took the phone worm and said that for Zephyr, he was naturally on guard. I'm not here to trouble, but to seek cooperation. Zephyr was dissatisfied with Doflamingo's words and clearly stated his intentions. Come here first. Shashing, who had been looking at the game console in hand, raised her head at this time, said aloud. Zephyr is naturally very clear about the situation of this fellow, and when he naturally comes in and sits down. When Doflamingo heard Xia Xing's words, he wouldn't say much to others, and informed his subordinates to let them go. Soon after, Zephyr took Ain and Binzi into Xia Xing's villa. White Lion Shashing, it's a pity that we didn't meet in Marineford. I've long wanted to meet you. As soon as he entered, Zephyr still had a huge shredder arm in his right hand. He didn't even look at the Shichibukai pirates on either side. He looked directly at Shashing and said. I also secretly admired that this young man made Sengoku regret it. Today's Shashing seems to be lazy on the sofa, but the hidden haki still makes Zephyr feel it. Shashing also looked at the three of them, especially the sad man in the middle, Zephyr, who was in his 70s and almost felt guilty for his dead wife and son for a lifetime. At this time, Shashing had not had time to say hello, but Zephyr continued to speak directly. I have officially left Marine and formed a brand new Neo-Marine with the purpose of annihilating pirates all over the world. Zephyr started straight to the point. Do you say that you are already separated? We haven't received any news, and it's hard to believe that you are in Marine. Advertisement. Sand Crocodile felt that Zephyr's first sentence seemed unreliable, and said immediately without hesitation. Marine is already recruiting new Shichibukai. I have seen the list. One of them has a bloody feud with me and has agreed to join Shichibukai. So first left Marine. Zephyr glanced sideways at Sand Crocodile, and then said to Shashing. How can you make people believe this kind of thing? Black Arm Zephyr, you have a lot of power in Marine, and you are almost a teacher of most high-level teachers, even your qualifications are not less than Sengoku. Gecko Moria did not believe it at this time. The reason for this Black Arm Zephyr was not enough, and even Moria had some doubts that this Zephyr was deliberately sent by the world government. These words are not very trustworthy when they are said. The Empress Hancock even sat on the coiled python, supporting her cheek with her left hand and said. And everyone else is the same, even Jinbei, the seaman, has a look of disbelief. I believe. Shashing looked at Zephyr and smiled, and said in a lazy voice. Shichibukai were very surprised that Shashing believed the words of this Black Arm Zephyr. Zephyr, Ain, and Pins were also very surprised. Shashing believe. Ha ha ha, good, worthy of being a white lion. This time I am not here to seek your refuge, but want to come to form an alliance with you. You and I are both disappointed in Marine and leave. It is better to work together to eradicate the seas that do harm to the world. Thief. In order to show my sincerity, although I didn't bring any treasures, I have a lot of explosive news, and I have a great relationship with you. Black Arm Zephyr heard Shashing say that he believed, and then laughed and said the purpose. However, Shashing did not respond to the news that Zephyr said, just staring at Zephyr indifferently. However, Shichibukai like Doflamingo became a little curious, what news this Zephyr brought, even bowed to come to Shashing to seek an alliance. In order to show sincerity, let me talk about it first. Not long ago, the world government had sent people to actively contact 4 emperors Kaido and Big Mom. Obviously, their purpose is to deal with you. Zephyr didn't mind, he just stared at Xia Xing's expression and began to say it. Advertisement. The faces of Doflamingo, Moria, Hancock and Jinbei were all changed. Kaido and Big Mom are not afraid even if they join forces. There will be no problems with the White Lion Shashing. After all, Shashing has suppressed them more than once, but with the addition of world government, it is completely different. The world government not only has Marine's highest combat power Aokiji, Akainu, Kizaru, but also heroes Garp, Marshal Sengoku and other ruthless people, and it is said that there are unknown mysterious powerhouses in the world government. Plus the powerful appeal of the world government above the sea. How many ruthless people do the ghosts know they will recruit? Gecko Moria said with eyes wide open at this moment, unexpectedly. The world government is the real sea overlord. It used to fight the 4 emperors pirates, but now, they have joined forces. Cooperate with the 2 of the 4 emperors, Kaido and Big Mom, how can we stop here? Doflamingo and others also felt a deep shock. Shashing looked calm and disapproving. Only if this is the case, what is there to worry about, although the signing in these days is only a little bit every day. But now that Conqueror's Haki is close to opening a new ability, there is nothing to worry about, and the number of people is meaningless to him. After Zephyr finished speaking, he naturally noticed the look of the former Shichibukai around him, but he was surprised when he watched Shashing. White Lion, wouldn't they worry about Wang Haojiao's terrifying strength after they joined forces? Still disapproving, very plain. Aokiji Kuzan and the Red Dog Sakazuki have already won the position of Marshal in the uninhabited island Punk Hazard War, and today is the second day. Wait for them to decide the victory or defeat is when the world government officially contacted Kaido and Big Mom. Naturally, at that time, I am afraid that the day when they come to Crusade you will not be far away, White Lion. Zephyr locked Xia Xing's eyes tightly. In addition to telling these news, Zephyr also wanted to see if there was any worry or fear in Xia Xing's eyes. Is it so fast? Your Excellency White Lion, in this case, how about we shift our position to avoid the edge? After all, it is the 4 emperors pirates and the world government. The so-called cooperation will definitely not last long as we don't confront them head-on. Gecko Moria had already fought back at this time, and couldn't help but utterly persuade Shashing. Chapter 93. It was 5 elders who killed rocks. Advertisement. The others also glanced at Gecko Moria in surprise, but they did not speak either, and there was indeed a worried look in their expressions. It's too much trouble. If you want to come over to fight, let them come. I'm too lazy to move. Shashing shook her head, her face lazy and indifferent. Gecko Moria was speechless immediately, growing up her mouth and didn't know what to say. When it was the Sea Knight Jinbei, the Empress Hancock and others smiled. This was the white lion that suppressed the 4 emperors while walking around the courtyard. Zephyr looked at Shashing deeply and smiled at the corner of his mouth. There is still no change in the eyes of the white lion. No matter how much a person hides, he can't hide the window of his soul. Coupled with the decision made by Shashing, Zephyr knew that he was not in vain. The following news is the most important thing. White Lion boy, if a war starts, who do you think is the biggest threat? After Zephyr said these words, Shichibukai looked over in amazement, and even Shashing raised his head curiously. This question Zephyr said is very meaningful. It's not the Admiral that is known as Marine's highest combat power, nor the Sengoku of the Buddha, the hero Ka 637 Pu, even Kong, who is already the commander of the army, may not be a threat. The most important thing to pay attention to is 5 elders. Zephyr didn't sell too much, and quickly spoke out. 5 elders, Gecko Moria, Xia Jinbei, and Empress Hancock all showed unexpected expressions. Even Doflamingo, who has the deepest relationship with the world government, shrank his pupils. The 5 people standing on the top of the world's power are really not easy, even Zephyr now says so, but who knows how powerful 5 elders really is, no one has ever said. I am in my 70s this year, and I have been at Marine for most of my life. I have been in a high position and have lived for a long time. Naturally, the strength of 5 elders is clearer than others. The rocks were killed by their hands. Not only that, only 2 of the 5 elders that were dispatched back then, together with Garp and Roger, killed rocks. It would be unimaginable if 5 elders were dispatched together. Zephyr's words are so solemn, and they are still talking about this kind of thing, so Shichibukai like Doflamingo can't help but believe a little more. At the same time, Zephyr had seen 5 elders take a shot, and even Rocks, the true maritime hegemon of the year, only dispatched 2 to join Garp, Roger and defeated. Advertisement. What he said is very possible. When I was a child, Mariajoy did hear that my parents mentioned that 5 elders is the supreme existence. It is a very powerful existence. I don't know how strong it is, but it definitely surpasses Admiral and the Marshal. At this time, Doflamingo also remembered that he used to say it. Hearing Ming Ji's words, Xia Jinbei and Sand Crocodile Kirkdale frowned immediately. Empress Hancock heard a cold snort and also showed sadness. Gecko Moria shrank her head in fear, only the eagle-eyed Mahawk, who had always been like a wood, showed its light. 5 elders. So it's possible to be stronger than Roger One Piece. I don't know what the gap between me and them is. Mahawk lowered the arms he was holding, thinking to himself with excitement and fighting spirit. Shashing still doesn't matter much. It doesn't matter if you find yourself in trouble. Even though you are lazy, you won't be afraid of trouble. 5 elders. I know, if they come, then we will deal with them first. Shashing waved her hand lazily, and then put her hand on the box of the game console. These words of performance and confidence gave Jinbei, Sand Crocodile and others a lot of peace of mind. However, the worries between the world government and the 4 emperors Kaido and Big Mom cannot be relieved and linger. It's okay to join, but these news don't make much sense to me. Black Arm Zephyr, you have to come up with some practical benefits. Shashing nodded to Zephyr's alliance. Even at the beginning, he didn't care whether he joined or not, but when he came, he had to come up with some benefits. For a while, Zephyr was a little bit regretful. Are these news still meaningless? Isn't this enough? All these news, especially the last intelligence, are worth a lot of money. What do you want? Zephyr has some headaches. Does the white lion Shashing still want treasure? Shashing chuckled, and sat up with her slumped figure. I've seen many cartoonists on North Blue from the TV bugs, and the comics are even more popular. For example, the stories of the Vinsmoke family are well drawn. How about you go get me some nice comic books? Quote. Having said this, Shashing's eyes lit up immediately, and said unceremoniously immediately. Advertisement. All right. Zephyr was a bit speechless, thinking that the white lion Shashing was something precious, but after holding back for a long time, I wanted to let myself ask for this thing, and let myself have an admiral-level combat power to get comics, and this white lion dared to say it. Seeing that Zephyr was speechless for a while and still agreed, Shashing couldn't help but laugh. After the matter was said and chatting for a while, Shashing couldn't wait to go back to the room and try the computer that guy had made. Doflamingo, Moria, Jinbei and Zephyr also left Shashing's villa together. This kid, White Lion, has always been like this. Zephyr couldn't help it, turned his head and asked Doflamingo and others. I'm really curious about what this guy is like. This question caused Shichibukai's expression to be stagnant. Your Excellency, the White Lion is really a little bit obscure. Jinbei remembered, shook his head and said, since knowing the White Lion, it has always been the things that Guoyi thought about. Even if I can see him now, Jinbei can't understand it at all. I've been here for so long, and I haven't really seen the White Lion cultivating. His life seems very lazy. Gecko Moria said it very directly. Moria didn't know what words to use to describe it. After all, Shanyu's character and acting style were difficult for him to understand. It's just that you haven't watched it. Go and watch The Cultivation of the Strong. You don't want to die. The sand crocodile thought it was normal, but the last sentence was a warning to Moria. If you can't see it, don't say it. It's very misleading to say it so widely. Gecko Moria was also taken aback, and hurriedly shut up. Chapter 94. Aokiji defeated. Find the White Lion to reminisce about the past. Advertisement. You still worry about yourself, this lineup is not a joke. Hancock snorted coldly when they heard them talking about the White Lion in their free time. Everyone sank one after another, and Doflamingo's expression was even more solemn. Although sometimes I look forward to the war, but Marine has added the 4 emperors to deal with his side, the war is completely beyond imagination. Punk hazard. Half of the island is extremely cold and snowy, and half is lava billowing. Akainu Sakazuki and Aokiji Kuzan fought for 10 days and nights. Kuzan was naked, with the smoke rising from half of his body being scalded by lava, lying weakly on the ground, and his left leg was broken there. The blood is flowing. Sakazuki was also exhausted, covered in scars, put on his marine hat and wore it up. The battle for the position of marshal is already divided. After a long period of silence, I still choose to let Aokiji weigh off. If I lose, I have already left marine and am a free man. Aokiji Kuzan stood up slowly, and the elemental body formed a cold left leg. Up to you. Akainu has nothing to say, now the two of them have already gone too far. After speaking, Akainu, who had already clasped his hat, turned and left. And Aokiji stood there quietly for a long time, and finally took a deep breath. Sakazuki left with the warship. So now, where should I go? Aokiji Kuzan sighed. Having lost this battle, he has no longer staying in marine as admiral. At this time, the image of Xia Xing when she left and the information of a certain island flashed in her mind. La, it's a colleague anyway, how can you treat yourself too badly, right? Advertisement. Thinking that he might go to Xia Xing, Aokiji Kuzan immediately decided to take a look. As for marine, he didn't want to go back. After recovering in punk hazard for a long time, Aokiji finally walked out after getting dressed again, not knowing where he found his bicycle, and began to walk on the ice on the sea. Aokiji, who hadn't been far away, headed towards the seas of all nations. At this moment, he saw a pirate ship in front of him at a glance. Blackbeard Teach, Badgers and other subordinates knew that Akainu and Aokiji were fighting here, and they watched for a few days. In the end, Akainu came out with injuries and directly adjusted it. So the warship returned. As for Aokiji Kuzan, he never came out to make Blackbeard Teach secretly happy, but he did not dare to go directly to Punk Hazard, which has been completely changed in climate. Hey, Kuzan, Marine has completely abandoned you and left. Would you like to join me and make a big fuss all over the world? Seeing Aokiji's Blackbeard Teach, I was shocked. Now Chingwei seems to be doing business as usual. He blurted out as an invitation, and looked very kind. Didn't you just go through a 10-day and 10-night battle? Blackbeard Teach, you are not qualified yet. Aokiji said earnestly as if telling a fact, the speed of riding the bicycle under his feet did not slow down in the slightest. At this time, a sword chi directly slashed towards Aokiji. Rain Shiryu heard Aokiji's uncomfortable snort, and directly drew out the thunderstorm and slashed it out. Blackbeard Teach also looked at it with a smile, he now doubts that Aokiji is not in such a normal state. Just when the sword energy was about to be cut in half. The terrifying cold air on Aokiji broke out directly. An ice wall appeared quickly and directly blocked Shiryu of Rain's sword chi, and then the sea surface on this side, including the pirate ship, was directly frozen there. Blackbeard Teach looked at the hoarfrost that was still spreading on the pirate ship under his feet in amazement. Aokiji's strength has not weakened, and hunting is probably impossible. I also wanted to have a chance to seize Aokiji's abilities. Now that there is no chance, Teach can only let Aokiji leave on his bike. Where can you go after you leave Marine? As Aokiji was leaving, Blackbeard Teach couldn't help but ask. White Lion Xia Xing. Advertisement. Aokiji didn't have any heart to conceal, he just said the name of Xia Xing, and then stayed away. It wasn't until Aokiji's back was no longer visible that Blackbeard Teach reacted, and his face began to darken. Seeking flowers. At this time, Aokiji went to find the White Lion again. I am afraid that the crusade against the White Lion is getting less and less simple. Others did not speak, including the San Juan wolf who was also pulling the ice from the waist. After a long time, Punk Hazard discovered that people had already arrived one after another under Van Oka's super long-distance experience. This time, here, not only 4 Emperors Kaido but also BIGMOM will be present at the meeting. New Shichibukai and Marine will also be present. Then Blackbeard Teach led his subordinates to Punk Hazard and walked directly inside. The island wrapped in ice and fire was full of traces of battle. As we watched walking along the way, Blackbeard Teach and his party soon met the owner of the Golden City, Disilo, who also walked in. After separating from Doflamingo, Disilo did not follow Ming-jae to join the White Lion League, but was invited to become one of the new Shichibukai. Disilo chuckled when he saw Blackbeard and his group and walked on his own. Immediately afterwards, Teach and his group ran into a tall figure holding a naginata and an old woman. It was Edward Wabel and Miss Bajan who were also invited by Shichibukai. When they arrived in the experimental field, after a while, a red figure appeared like a flash. Everyone's eyes couldn't help shrinking, looking at the young Red Earl, who was now surging with strength, couldn't help but secretly startled. Even Lonely Red was invited to become Shichibukai. Immediately afterwards, the heir of the devil, Douglas Bullet, also appeared in black clothes. Both Blackbeard Teach and Disilo were surprised, and Marine clearly wanted to do something big. Even Marine has the ability to directly invite these two to become a new Shichibukai. After the two appeared, soon, Marshal Sengoku, Garp, Akainu Sakazuki, and Kizaru Pelusolino also walked into Punk Hazard's testing ground. Next to them, there was a blind man who had never seen it. He was dressed in purple and looked like an uncle. If Shashing can see it, you can recognize it. This is Fujitora, who will also become Admiral. Smile everyone. Chapter 95. Astonishing forces gathered. 5 elders appeared. Advertisement. Marine arrives. Everyone at the scene looked at the past. Sengoku, Garp and others looked very serious, and did not say anything else, but directly led everyone to the meeting room of the experimental site. It's really a terrifying lineup. How can this be? Blackbeard Teach is already secretly surprised by the lineup here. In the audience, Earl Red and Bullet sat down casually. Edward, Wabel, and Miss Bajan were all sitting in the furthest corners, and Disilo also sat with a serious expression. Sengoku, Garp and Admiral just sat silently, waiting for the others to arrive. Not long after, there was a sound of footsteps outside. Kaido, who was covered with scars, wore a mace and a grinning BIGMOM and walked into 637. Behind them, only Jin and Katakuri followed, and the others were still outside. Well, Sengoku, Garp. Upon arrival, Big MOM and Kaido glanced around and greeted them first. Kaido was also smiling. Wait for a while, Charlotte Linlin, Kaido. Sengoku's expression didn't get any better. After all, before their 4 emperors were still hostile pirates. Escape at Marineford, making Sengoku, Garp and others very awkward. With such a strong lineup, if it were not for the cooperation and contact from Mariajoy, I would doubt that you would ambush us here. Kaido laughed, said bluntly, and then sat down. Hearing Kaido's words, Akainu snorted immediately. He really wants to leave Kaido and BIGMOM here now. Garp, Fujitora, Kizaru, etc. also didn't care, especially Garp was lowering his head and didn't know what he was thinking. Katakuri and Jin stopped and looked around in a circle. They were also secretly surprised when they saw the Red Earl and Bullet, and it was the first time that the 4 Emperors pirate group had a face-to-face conversation with Marine at such a close distance. At this time, footsteps came from outside the door, and a majestic military uniform with a chevron-shaped beard Kong appeared on the scene. Advertisement. When Kong came in, he didn't even look at the 2 4 Emperors, Kaido and BIGMOM, but his eyes immediately noticed that he was sitting quietly and replied to the young Red Earl Letterfield. At this time, Earl Hong also walked in with his pupils shrinking, with a hint of Haki in his eyes. Kong also carried Haki in his eyes, and for a while, the 2 eyes met in the middle, and Haki's lightning flashed out. Humph. The Red Earl Letterfield and Kong retreated as soon as they touched, and snorted coldly. The grievances between the 2 people are not clear to others, but Marine knows that Earl Red was sent to impel down by Garp after he was exhausted by Marine Admiral Kong. These 2 are like the rival relationship between Garp and Roger, Sengoku and Whitebeard. Other pirates such as Blackbeard Teach, Kaido, BIGMOM, Desaro, etc. are all awe-inspiring in their hearts. This is an extraordinary powerhouse. I am afraid that the actual strength is even more faintly than Garp. It is definitely one of the absolute powerhouses in the world government. I'm the commander-in-chief of the whole army, Kong, but the real decision-making person has not yet arrived. I need to wait patiently. Kong didn't say anything to Earl Hong either, but said to everyone like this. Although I haven't seen Earl Red for decades, they have been living in peace for the first time in most of their lives. When everyone heard Kong's words, their pupils shrank. The name Sora has heard the rumors more than once, and it is really powerful. But even if he appeared, he is not the real decision-making person. Who are you waiting for to negotiate? How long have you waited? This lineup can be killed directly. The others didn't say anything, but Kaido complained directly. Acting with Marine is like this, procrastinating. Do you still want to be suppressed by the White Lion? When Akainu Sakazuki heard Kaido's complaint, he immediately mocked. You wanna die. Kaido was ridiculed by Sakazuki in this way. Advertisement. The body just stood up. Akainu Sakazuki also stood up with a sneer, and suddenly the smell of gunpowder was full. At this time, an extremely tyrannical aura permeated from the outside. Everyone who sensed it became solemn in an instant. Kaido was also taken aback in his heart, staring at the door stubbornly. 5 figures walked in slowly, their aura like a rainbow, like Shura. Is this going to start the fight first? The voice was deserted and majestic. Katakuri, Jin, Blackbeard Teach and others were shocked, looking at the 5 people in front of them with trembling eyes. Disilo couldn't help but tremble with his hand touching the ring. Even Bullet and Earl Red, who were just watching the show, had serious expressions, and there was a cautious look in their eyes. Bullet participated in the Battle of the Valley of the Gods and saw the strength of 2 of the 5 elders. At this time, looking back on it, he couldn't help being more alert. Red Earl also heard him talk about the terrible fighting power of the 5 elders when he met Roger. Now that they are more than 30 years old, judging from their current aura, they are obviously more powerful and terrifying than before. Big MOM and Kaido looked at each other even more, and in their solemnity, they never thought that these 5 people would appear here. 5 elders. Kaido gritted his teeth and sat down directly. If the person waiting for the decision is 5 elders, then there is nothing to complain about, and Akainu's ridicule can be found later. The appearance of 5 elders is the real number of people. The 5 people also put away their aura, glanced lightly, and took a seat in the middle and did not speak anymore. Kong, Sengoku and others nodded to the 5 elders. Then we will begin. Now the White Lion Alliance, not only the original Shichibukai Doflamingo, Sand Crocodile, Jinbei, Pirate Empress Hancock, Gecko Moria, Hawkeye Mahawk has left the world government to join the White Lions, and even the former Marine Admiral Zephyr also followed the White Lion has an answer. The power of the White Lion Alliance is rapidly expanding, and even some forces in the world plan to approach the White Lion Alliance. The level of threat is also increasing, and it must be resolved as soon as possible. Kong stood up and began to speak to everyone in earnest. Kaido, Big Mom, Red Earl and others below all listened solemnly. Chapter 96. Armed with Conquerors. I will too. Advertisement. So, Marine decided to use the scale of Buster Call. 3 generals, Marshal Marine, General Commander of the Army, and 5 elders were all dispatched. The White Lion, the biggest hidden danger of disrupting the balance of the world, was completely solved. In order to prevent the White Lion Shashing from escaping and to ensure that it is foolproof, we will fully encircle the island, and at the same time, we will broadcast the entire process of the White Lion Crusade to the world. Kong spoke seriously about the government's tactical layout to the participants such as Earl Hong, Bullet, Kaido, and Big Mom in a serious tone. World government is going to establish a more terrifying majesty for the whole world to see. But Marine has just experienced a war on the top in terms of combat power, and can no longer withstand such a large-scale siege war for a while, and the White Lion Shashing Conqueror's Haki is extremely tyrannical, and the combat power below Admiral hardly poses any threat to Shashing at all. Quote. So everyone who is powerful, as well as the strong from the old age, is summoned here. This time, the team to deal with Shashing seemed to be justified immediately after Kong's speech. Below Admiral, even if it's above Admiral, I'm afraid it may not be a threat to the White Lion. Blackbeard Teach said jokingly when he heard the words here. The 4 emperors was not the same as being directly pressed by the White Lion and lying on the ground, unable to move. You are looking for death. Blackbeard Teach's words were like tearing open Kaido's scar, and Kaido immediately became furious. Even the Red Earl Letterfield, Bullet, and Big Mom who had been defeated by Shashing were all sullen and stared at Blackbeard Teach. Am I wrong? The current Blackbeard Teach smiled. Even if I can't beat Kaido right now, it's true, and even black mist oozes out of my body. Blackbeard, enough. Akainu Sakazuki and other Marines saw that the situation was not right, and immediately stopped drinking Blackbeard Teach and picked up the matter again. Sengoku, Garp, and others all looked at Blackbeard Teach and were surprised by Teach's performance. It's fine for Teach to tease, but dare you to really prepare to start with Kaido. Let's continue. Advertisement. Kong also cast a calm look at Kaido and others. White Lion's Conqueror's Haki, is it strong? Taking advantage of this gap, the naive Wable also said puzzledly. Very strong. In front of his Conqueror's Haki, I don't even have the power to resist. But I didn't plan to give it that day. As long as I can implant gold in the White Lion's body, even the strongest conquerors will be finished under my ability. Disilo, who was sitting not far from Wable, answered, with deep jealousy in his eyes, but he smiled confidently when he said that he was implanting gold. Conqueror's Haki, isn't it a deterrent? The White Lion's physical attack. Fujitora, who had just joined Marine as Admiral through the world conscription, was very curious, and said with a stick and knife gently. The White Lion uses the armed conquerors, and the conqueror's Haki that can be condensed is covered with armed Haki. There are 2 powerful Haki techniques directly contained in it. To be honest, this kind of technique is completely useless and can only be used more powerfully. It's impossible for me to try my best to crack it. Count Red sat upright in the chair, preaching earnestly. The entire ocean has been so many years, and only rocks has such an unimaginable skill. Speaking of which, Bullet is even more straightforward. The White Lion's Conqueror's Haki is indeed incredible, very tyrannical. Although we haven't played head-on, but it is estimated that we may not be able to break the Shashing boys' defense with full shots. Kizaru and Akainu also expressed the horror of Shashing Conqueror's Haki at this time. Especially after learning about the battle between Kaido and Big Mom and others before being escorted from Impel down, I feel even more that even my strongest attack can hardly pose a threat to Shashing. Kong also hadn't seen Xia Xing's Haki head-on, so he frowned. Neither can you. Kong turned his head to look at Garp, and asked earnestly. My fist can't even cause Kaido to really hurt. It's nothing against the kid Shashing. Garp smiled and shook his head. In this crusade against Shashing, both he himself and Sengoku had opposed opinions. Moreover, he knew his own strength and there really was no better way to fight against Shashing. Advertisement. After hearing Garp's answer, Kong looked solemn. I'm just the same as Garp, even if it's strong, it's just a little stronger, and it's very limited. Even Garp thought he couldn't handle Xia Xing's armed conquerors, so even if he tried his best, it would be difficult to solve it. And listening to these guys talking about how difficult and tyrannical Conqueror's Haki of Shashing is, the faces of Kaido and Big Mom are so black that they can drip ink. The White Lion's Conqueror's prestige is not achieved by stepping on their heads. Especially Kaido, who was slashed with a knife by Xia Xing's armed Conqueror's Haki twice and almost died. At this time, I can think of the dying fear of being suppressed by Shashing. Everyone is a little worried, and the ability to deal with Shashing is the most important thing in defeating him. At this time, the 5 elders listened for a long time and finally spoke. You said that the armed bully 637 King Color Haki, do you mean this? One of them had blonde hair and a golden beard, said the old man with a scar in front of Shang, and at the same time a terrifying pressure spread out on his body. The surrounding space seems to be faintly blue. In this terrifying Conqueror's Haki, there is also the smell of armament Haki. In an instant, Kaido, Big Mom, Blackbeard Teach, Disolo and other people who were suppressed by Shashing Conqueror's Haki all changed their faces in awe. Even Akainu, Kizaru, Fujitora, Garp and Sengoku look awe-inspiring. The pressure surrounding it is really terrifying. Even the tables in the conference room of the test site have cracks, and the ground and walls are making noises by the strong impact. This is just Conqueror's Haki displayed by one of 5 elders at random. My head hurts. I can't stand it anymore. Mom. Miss Ba Jin has never dared to speak on this occasion, and now he is directly confused by Conqueror's Haki of 5 elders. As a result, at this time, Edward Wabel couldn't stand the feeling of oppressive nerves. Picking up Naginata was like attacking one of the blonde 5 elders. Akainu, Kizaru, and Fujitora shot together immediately. The elementalization of Akainu and Kizaru directly suppressed Wabel's power, and Fujitora was launched by the fruit of gravity to control Wabel on the ground. Chapter 97. It is finally decided that the 5 elders will be dispatched together. Advertisement. At this time, the 5 elders smiled faintly and put away Conqueror's Haki. There is no doubt that although it is not used like the White Lion Shashing, it is indeed an armed Conqueror's Haki. Bullet, Kaido, and Big Mom all felt palpitations in horror at this time. They participated in the Battle of the Valley of Gods, and this blonde old man was one of the main forces who defeated Rocks. They were still very immature back then, but now that they feel up close here, it is obvious that this old man is more terrifying than before after so many years. I don't know how much. Others such as Disolo, Miss Ba Jin, Blackbeard Teach, etc. were even more surprised in their hearts. Such a powerful old man is the highest authority in the world government, and there are a total of 5. No wonder the World Alliance government has been able to stand at the top for 800 years. Except for Marine and Kong people, just with these 5 old men, who can be their opponent? In the audience, only the Red Earl was thinking about how 5 elders compares with the White Lion's conquerors. The Conqueror's Haki of the 5 old men is indeed very powerful, but it has not yet reached the level of the White Lion Shashing. After the comparison, Earl Hong said it cautiously. At this time, the 5 elders all showed unexpected expressions, and they said such words carefully with their lonely red strength. The White Lion's armed Conqueror's Haki can still surpass us. The 5 elders couldn't help but glance at each other unexpectedly. Fujitora, Kong and other people who have never experienced Shashing Conqueror's Haki were all surprised. Look at the expressions of Kaido, Big Mom, and Bullet. They all recognize the words of Red Earl Letterfield. The power of 5 elders is already at this level, can't it be stronger than the White Lion Shashing? Both Kong and Fujitora looked dignified and surprised. So in order to deal with such an enemy, the 5 of us will act together to prevent accidents. Wearing a black suit, white curly hair, a flat hat, and a scar on his left face, the old man ranked first in 5 elders, and he also spoke directly at this time. Advertisement. Not only him, but the other 4 people have become vigilant. They are very solemn now when dealing with Shashing. This time, the White Lion Shashing must be eliminated. This kid is less than 20 years old now, and he already has the strength comparable to Rocks. From the perspective of the guys on the larger seas, even the most talented guys are Admiral level combat power, such as Fire Fist Ace. But the White Lion Shashing is now at the pinnacle of the world, and now letting the time go, I can't imagine how invincible he will be. At that time, what is the difference between the world government and a small island in Xia Xing's eyes? The determination to kill by the 5 elders also made everyone feel cold again, and their hearts were awe-inspiring. One is scary enough, and now it is even more directly dispatched together with 5. World government must kill. Xia Xing's mind is very strong, so strong that he will not hesitate to expose some behind the scenes of world government. Kong was even more shocked at this time. Prior to this, the 5 elders said that they would shoot 2 to 3 people at most. Although it was only 2 or 3, it was already certain that even Rocks would be defeated directly in the world, but now they have directly decided that the 5 elders will do it together. Garp and Sengoku also glanced at each other, their frowning brows never let go. This time, the kid Shashing was afraid that it was too bad. Kaido, Big Mom, as well as Bullet, Red Earl, Blackbeard Teach, Wabel and Miss Bajan and all the pirates at this time have deep fears and calculations about the world government. Their strength is so strong that even if they defeat Shashing in the end, they have to figure out a plan to withdraw. The world government, after all, is not worthy of trust. Who knows that the 5 elders of this kind of strength led all Marines' combat power, and will they turn directly after they are used up? But fear is the power of the world government, and Kaido and Big Mom have a sense of excitement in their hearts at this time. In the same way, all 5 of such terrifying powers were dispatched directly, and with them, the fellow White Lion Shashing can't justify it if he is not finished, right? All the people present were silent for a while, and then Kong took a deep breath. The basic layout is like this, and more details of the battle still need your cooperation. 1 month later, we will officially go to Crusade the White Lion Alliance. Within this month, you must be fully prepared. What should have been said was almost the same. Obviously, these pirates also agreed to the combat policy, and Kong just stood up and announced. A month's time is not too much, but not too much, just because the world conscription and other things can also be completed. Marine will also appear in the White Lion Shashing team in a state of war with all-out efforts. Advertisement. Isn't a month too long? Can't you just leave tomorrow? At this time, Kaido shook his beard and couldn't help but said in a puzzled way. Shashing wandered deep in his heart like a dream demon. Kaido couldn't help but feel anxious about the process of crusade against Shashing. BIGMOM, Bullet and others also narrow their eyes, and they are also puzzled why they have to wait a month. We must know that the current White Lions alliance is growing stronger and stronger, and one more month is enough time for some changes to occur. What's more, they have such a strong lineup and strength now, and the 5 elders are all deployed. Isn't it the best time? This is what the Lord Mariajoy meant, we are irreversible. One of the 5 elders with long gray hair and a beard said solemnly. Exclamation mark. Quote. But I didn't say more. After explaining that sentence, I stopped talking. This time, everyone was even more shocked. Wang Haojiao next. They all stared at the past and blew. I heard these 2 words from the mouths of the 5 elders. My lord. Above the top 5 in the world government, there is an adult. You know, the world government is an alliance of 20 countries to rule the world, and it has always been proclaimed that there is no dictator. Among the people present, apart from 5 elders, only Garp, Sengoku, and Kong knew about it. In the depths of Mariajoy, there is still a monster that has not known how many years have survived. The 5 elders did not say, the pirates did not dare to ask more, so this negotiation ended in punk hazard. The pirates and marine, Shichibukai's Crusade alliance has also been officially reached, and they have agreed to go to the island town where the White Lion Shashing is located in 1 month. However, it was at this moment. A huge flying island floated and reached the island where Shashing was located. Chapter 98. The legendary Golden Lion arrives. Advertisement. Now the island where Shashing is located and even the surrounding area have changed a lot. There are already Doflamingo, Sand Crocodile, Jinbei and Hancock people in the surrounding waters, and various constructions are still in progress. Compared with before, the island also seemed to be more lively. Originally, these aborigines were still a little panicked. They only accepted them one after another after they slowly discovered that they were harmless when they entered. In contrast, Shichibukai's the presence of forces has also brought more prosperity. And at this time, hey, look at the sky, what is that? The pirate on the island suddenly noticed that a black spot in the distant sky was getting closer and closer, and shouted. If it is on the sea, it may be a ship approaching, but if it is in the sky, what would it be? Doflamingo and others gathered together and looked to the sky curiously. As the black spots got closer, the faces of everyone became more and more shocked. Is that an island? Hurry up and report to Lord Doflamingo. A group of people finally saw clearly that what was flying from the sky turned out to be a huge 637 big island. Getting closer, everyone on the island found that the flying island was even bigger than the island under everyone's feet. Suddenly the pirates on the island became a little flustered. Many pirates screamed, and Doflamingo's subordinates ran over and reported to Doflamingo in a cold sweat. At this time, Doflamingo, Jinbei, Sand Crocodile, Hancock and others are discussing things in another built house. After all, many people gathered here to allocate places in their respective affairs. At this moment, the pirate hurriedly ran over. Master Joker, a huge island appeared in the sky. The pirate's words made Doflamingo and others present with unexpected expressions. Huge island. Doflamingo and others stood up immediately, looked at each other, and immediately a group of people walked out. When the former Shichibukai like Jinbei and Hancock walked out, the huge island was already floating not far away, and their eyes shook. Advertisement. A group of people including Sand Crocodile, Doflamingo, Gecko Moria and others have not seen these battles, and they feel a little shocked. Is this a pirate ship? Crocodile couldn't help guessing with a solemn expression on his face. It can be seen that this huge island is artificially manipulated, because there are also huge objects similar to the ship award. Someone seems to have come down from above. When Jinbei and others watched, they immediately stood up nervously. Jayahaha, there are really a lot of tough guys. On top of everyone's heads, a man wearing yellow sturdy clothes, blonde hair, legs replaced by 2 long swords, and a man with a cigar in his mouth flew down from the huge island abruptly. The tall figure exudes a lion swallowing the world, making the eyes of Doflamingo and Sand Crocodile all condensed. Golden Lion, Shiki. Looking at this look and attire and the aura, the Sand Crocodile, Doflamingo and others recognized it at a glance, and said unexpectedly. The legendary pirate, the flying pirate, Golden Lion, how could he appear here? Hasn't he been gone for a long time? Hawkeye Mahawk turned out to be the legendary Golden Lion, and his eyes were even hot. This guy, with such a powerful aura, deserves to be a great pirate who can fight against Roger. The pirates also showed a look of shock, and they were all taken aback. No wonder this huge island flew over in the air. In New World, these legendary characters and pirates are familiar. Especially Golden Lion Shiki, who used to be as famous as Gordy Luo, Cha Jia and Whitebeard, Edward Newgate, and set off a big riot, the legendary scary big pirate. Hey, go call the White Lion out. Shiki landed on the ground and glanced around Doflamingo, Empress Hancock and others, but did not see the White Lion in the intelligence, smoked a big cigar and said to everyone. I came to see Shashing, and I was not interested in these so-called original Shichibukai. Golden Lion Shiki, why are you here? What are you doing with your Lord White Lion? The sand crocodile looked on guard and asked Shiki. A fierce man who was once more fierce than the four emperors appeared directly here, and he bluntly said that he must ask the White Lion Lord, Sand Crocodile, Doflamingo and others. Advertisement. The Golden Lion Shiki, who came all the way, didn't have much patience to answer the questions of these little guys here, raising his legs indifferently and starting to walk forward. The White Lion is not here, then I will go in and look for it myself. Golden Lion. Want to go here without explaining the reason. Doflamingo, Jinbei and others jumped out immediately, blocking the path of Golden Lion. How could it be possible for everyone to easily get out of the way because they are the legendary pirates? Are you trying to stop me? Golden Lion Shiki laughed loudly when they saw that they were about to move forward. Continue to walk into the island without stopping. Stop. Golden Lion, if you want to see the White Lion, let us report first. Doflamingo persuaded again loudly. It would be best if you could not do it, but the appearance of Golden Lion did not take it seriously, extremely arrogant. Kaiwa Jungchan. Facing the pressing Golden Lion Shiki, Jinbei narrowed his eyes and took the lead. With the power of his whole body, he used Murloc Karate, and hit Shiki in the air with a single step. The air seemed to be rippling, and after the delay, it rushed towards the Golden Lion Shiki violently. In the face of this legendary big pirate, Jinbei almost did his best without leaving any hands. Doflamingo, Gecko Moria, Hancock, Mahawk, and Crocodile all quickly scattered. The Golden Lion Shiki raised the long knife on his left leg, and the punch that Haki entangled against Jinbei hit it. With a puffing sound, the Murloc Karate boxing was completely blocked at the feet of Golden Lion Shiki. The power is very powerful, but I still can't stop me. It's better to let me go to the White Lion if you have this skill. Golden Lion Shiki chuckled, his expression remained unchanged after facing Jinbei's attack, and he glanced sideways at the others and continued to walk forward. At this moment, the surrounding ground quickly turned into surging white waves. This is Doflamingo's awakening ability. Chapter 99. The Amazing Conquerors reappears. Advertisement. This guy is not easy to deal with, let's go together. Sand Crocodile, Doflamingo and others naturally understood the power of Golden Lion Shiki, and shouted with a serious face. If Golden Lion Shiki rushed past in this way, what kind of face would they have? For a time, Doflamingo unfolded the fruit ability of awakening, and the Empress Hancock, the Sand Crocodile started one after another, the momentum exploded. 16 holy bullets. God punish. Doflamingo also didn't keep his hands in the slightest, but directly used a powerful big move. The white lines on the ground surged, forming a sharp ball of attack, and under the coverage of Doflamingo's Haki, it showed a purple and black color, and it pierced violently toward the Golden Lion Shiki. Shiki's eyes were slightly condensed, but his seemingly plain expression was filled with admiration in his heart. These guys are all guys who can be admitted by the world government to become Shichibukai, but they are not simple. And at the same time that Doflamingo's divine slaying whistling towards the Golden Lion Shiki, the Empress Hancock also ran and attacked the Golden Lion. Behind the two, Seaman Jinbei used Murloc Karate again to follow closely behind, and Crocodile slapped his palm on the ground, and he was about to aim at the opportunity to activate his ability. Many Shichibukai launched an offensive in an instant, and powerful energy fluctuations broke out directly at this time, forming a strong wind blowing around. The pirates around even saw such a terrifying scene and immediately scattered away. The Golden Lion Shiki, who was at the center of the attack, showed a smile. The body directly left the ground, and his legs slashed like an arm, and a large sword or directly slashed out, slashing towards Doflamingo's god. With a crash, a huge sound resounded through this island, and the black and red Conqueror's Haki lightning overflowed. Doflamingo's slaying was directly slashed and bent by Golden Lion Shiki's large slash wave. Following the cutting action, Shiki's left hand caught the sprinting Hancock in the air, his right fist armament Haki covered, and he greeted Jinbei, who was punching again. Boom. While easily receiving Jinbei's punch, Hancock was besieged by the Golden Lion's fruit ability to control a large amount of seawater. Devil Fruit's ability to be wrapped in seawater resulted in a limp body. For a time, the horrible energy fluctuations dispersed, and everyone who was getting along with the game was stunned. Advertisement. Moria even manipulated the surrounding shadows, trying to find a chance to sneak attack Shiki. Mahawk's eyes burst into a strong sense of war, and his hands began to reach the black sword knight behind him. The Sand Crocodile did not expect Doflamingo, Jinbei, and Hancock to attack at the same time so easily that Shiki, the Golden Fox, resisted and countered it. His expression changed greatly, and the fruit ability was launched. Desert Knife. The ground cracked directly from Crocodile's hand and quickly spread towards the Golden Lion Shiki. A sharp slash made of sand proceeded directly along the crack, and slashed towards Shiki abruptly. I seem to know you. Have you duel with the guy Twet? Golden Lion Shiki looked at Crocodile with a big back, a flash of memory flashed in his eyes. Then he flew directly into the air, avoiding Crocodile's gravel slash with purple light. With a squeeze, the ground around Crocodile's body began to vibrate. Golden Lion. Crocodile roared in the trembling ground, and quickly formed a sandstorm hurricane to withstand the lion's head that was biting. At this time, Hawkeye Mahawk directly pulled out the black sword knight behind him, and it was a huge slash at the Golden Lion Shiki. The sword spirit on you is very strong. Golden Lion Shiki naturally knows this world's #1 swordsman who has become famous with the red-haired Shanks. It can also be said that among these 6 people, only Hawkeye Mahawk can pose a threat to him. A solemn expression flashed through Mihawk's eagle-like sharp eyes, and there was no slack green slash in the shot. The powerful sword aura even caused the heavy clouds in the sky to begin to crack. Lion Majesty. Thousand Cut Valley. Golden Lion Shiki was in the air, and his two legs continuously cut out the same large slash wave during the flight. In the almost seamless shot, the multiple slashes seemed to merge to form a one-shot rain eagle-eye Mihawk. Hit right and slash together. For flowers oh. With a swelling sound, the attacks of the two men cancelled each other out, forming a storm of energy that swept across the island. Advertisement. Mihawk's eyes couldn't help being dignified to the extreme. This Golden Lion Shiki is truly a figure who had already stood at the top of that year. He naturally knew how powerful his slashes were. I didn't expect to be completely blocked by him so easily. And Golden Lion Shiki also sighed in his heart that even if the strength of the world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye, Mihawk was placed in that era, it was also a top-tier powerhouse. At this moment, a sharp spear formed by a shadow pierced directly towards the Golden Lion Shiki from bottom to top. 0. Gecko Moria, who issued the release, showed a sinister smile, and the ability of the shadow fruit in his hand was activated. But how could this sneak attack hurt Golden Lion Shiki? The two famous swords of Sakura Ten and Withered Wood tied on their two legs split the shadow spears with a direct swipe, and then even before Moria hadn't reacted. The lion head that had suppressed Crocodile stretched out a piece and shot Moria flying out. This sneak attack also completely made Golden Lion Shiki feel impatient and secretly angry. With such a big movement, the fellow White Lion couldn't even come out to see him. White Lion, come out and see me. Shiki couldn't help yelling, his voice spread all over the island. However, there was still no response, making Shiki stunned in midair. Jahahaha, the White Lion is hiding from me. If this is the case, even if I run for nothing, this island does not need to exist. Shiki was angry, his expression became a little sullen, took out a cigar and bit it, the fruit ability in his hand was activated. In an instant, the entire island was shaking. He wants to destroy this island directly. Jinbei, Doflamingo and others on the ground showed horror. There is simply no way to prevent Golden Lion's ability from launching. Suddenly, a terrifying force of deterrence erupted from the center of the island, and it radiated to the Golden Lion Shiki in an instant. 0. Chapter 100. A thought shatters the giant sky ship of Golden Lion. Advertisement. Golden Lion Shiki's eyes widened suddenly, and he looked closely at the Conqueror's Haki that was instantly covered from more than 10 kilometers away. Jinbei, Crocodile, Hawkeye Mihawk, Empress Hancock, Doflamingo and others are even more incredible. This familiar Conqueror's Haki fluctuation is obviously the outbreak of the White Lion Shashing. It was directly covered from the air directly from the center of the island more than 10 kilometers away. White Lion. Shiki was shocked, and it was the first time that Conqueror's Haki, who was so majestic and so far away, was really seen. In the next moment, the powerful wind pressure is the first to hit the Golden Lion Shiki, and the air blows. Shiki's complexion was extremely solemn at this time, and Conqueror's Haki, who also raised himself on his body, tried to resist. In the next moment, he showed a look of horror, and his own Haki couldn't resist under the aura of 64-0 that Shashing enveloped. The invisible Conqueror's Haki directly impacted Shiki's body. There was only a hum in the ears of Doflamingo, Jinbei, Hancock and others, and then they saw the Golden Lion Shiki in midair, like a kite with a broken line, directly hitting the huge empty island. With a bang, a big hole was hit under the island, and even such a huge island was cracked. Shiki's throat was even sweeter, and blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth. The rubble of the floating sky island fell on the sea, and the original Shichibukai of Hancock looked at their throats wildly. No matter how many times they watched Shashing, they couldn't help but shake their hearts. Several people resorted to the legendary pirate Golden Lion, who couldn't shake them with all their abilities, and under Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki, they wounded him with a single blow. Hold me playing the game console well. You are impatient, Golden Lion Shiki. When Shiki finally came out after struggling for a long time and wiped the bloodline at the corner of his mouth, Shashing walked out of the island step by step. The faint tone was full of annoyance of being disturbed. This Golden Lion is really out of season. Can't you just wait for the game to be finished by yourself? It must be caused by strong winds and earthquakes. The White Lion, known as the strongest man who surpassed the guy from Twist Gate, is really tough to this extent. Jahaha White Lion, let's cooperate. The injured Golden Lion Shiki smiled without anger and looked at Shashing with bright eyes. It is such a guy who was qualified to become his true right-hand man and to take the whole world together. When these words came out, Doflamingo, Jinbei, Moria, and Crocodile were stunned. Advertisement. This Golden Lion Shiki also came to seek cooperation. Then why did he look so arrogant just now? In fact, what they didn't know was that Golden Lion Shiki was the strongest in the world at that time when his body was in good condition. Haughty, as it should be, Shashing naturally knew Golden Lion, but didn't care. Cooperation. It's not completely clear that the game experience that disturbs oneself is not completely clear. Just now this guy wanted to destroy his island directly. Not interested in. Shashing was unhappy with Shiki now, and she refused without hesitation. Got rejected. Shiki was shocked, but he didn't get annoyed or give up. In his opinion, this is the posture that the strong should have. Cooperate with me, White Lion, I have the power to destroy the world in my hands. This huge island is home to the powerful creatures that I have been researching and cultivating for 20 years. As long as one is released, it can cause devastating damage to an island. On it, there are a large group of them, countless. In order to impress Shashing, Golden Lion Shiki directly caused the island to descend a lot, and the vibration made the violent beasts on the floating sky island neigh. Suddenly, that kind of ferocious beast aura arose, and many of these beasts on the island showed terrifying figures on the side. Even ordinary armament Haki don't even want to hurt them, it's enough to be worth 1,000 troops. How about it, White Lion? Shiki looked at Jinbei, Doflamingo and others with a look of shock, and proudly introduced to Shashing. These beasts are really extremely powerful. The sand crocodile couldn't help showing a shocking color, and he could perceive the horror of these violent areas through observation Haki. And in this island above, there are really many thousands of them. The rest of the people have the same expression, and even Mihawk has an extremely solemn expression. This golden lion Shiki has disappeared for 20 years, and now it comes out with such a terrifying animal. And Shashing still looks indifferent. Isn't it just an animal fed with a special plant? Golden lion Shiki has really gone wrong. Advertisement. As long as you cooperate with me, there are these beasts capable of destroying the world. Who else is our opponent in this world? 5 elders, Sora, Garp, Sengoku or Tujit, all of them. The golden lion Shiki is more and more vigorous, and has been holding back for 20 years. As long as the white lions are willing to cooperate, conquer the world, and destroy East Blue, the plan can be implemented immediately. However, the words were not finished yet. Shashing waved his hand to interrupt Shiki's words, and looked up at the beasts beside the huge floating sky island. The invisible Conqueror's Haki surging out again, stirring the surrounding air. In an instant, all the beasts on the island above were stunned by Xia Xing's Conqueror's Haki. All the animals rolled their eyes and fainted like this. The noisy island that was originally disturbed by the golden lion Shiki was instantly quiet, and there was no sound. The original Shichibukai were all stunned, staring blankly at the fainting animals that fell from the surrounding area. This hand of the white lion is simply. This is all stunned. Golden lion Shiki regretted all of a sudden. After eating, 1Q, aren't the beasts who are very nervous after eating, 1Q, are not afraid of Conqueror's Haki's suppression of 0.0. The eyes that looked at Shashing immediately became even more fiery. These animals can reach thousands of troops and destroy the world. This white lion Shashing is able to withstand countless powerful enemies. Isn't this the partner I am looking for? Conqueror's Haki is already even scarier than Roger. Even if he stuns all his beasts, Shiki still doesn't give up, wanting to speak out to solicit Shashing again. Needless to say, Shashing frowned. Why couldn't this golden lion understand? Looking at the floating sky island, Conqueror's Haki started again. With a swelling noise, the air around the island rippled under the impact of Shashing Conqueror's Haki. The floating islands began to fall apart. Chapter 101. Whitebeard is here too. Advertisement. Golden Lion Shiki looked back at his floating island in shock, with an unbelievable look on his face. Jinbei, Crocodile, Doflamingo, Hancock, Moria, and even Hawkeye Mihawk opened their mouths in surprise. The white lion Shashing directly used Conqueror's Haki to shatter the entire huge island. The violent Haki impact directly dispersed the clouds behind the huge island, and the island was full of smoke and dust, and the cracks spread. With a cracking sound, the rubble continued to fall to the surface of the sea, and then it turned into a big collapse. The entire island lost the ability of lion fruit and shattered. Along with the remains of the huge island, the fainting beast on it also fell into the sea along with the disintegrated island. The whole scene is like a huge meteorite being broken and scattered. This kind of picture directly caused the people below to be sluggish and shocked, and the pirates were even scared to the ground. Lord White Lion, how strong is it? Mihawk had forgotten his usual mediocre style, and his mind trembled directly. Just now, it was just the white lion Shashing who glared at it. This huge island, at least 40 kilometers in size, was gone. White Lion, sure enough, I didn't misunderstand you, and I still underestimate you now. Golden Lion Shiki didn't say this sentence, and said in his heart. He now has no nostalgia for these beasts that have fallen into the sea, despite the hard work he has been cultivating. At this time, on the shattered island, Dr. Indigo and Scaredo and other Golden Lion's men also fell quickly in panic and fear. Shiki saw that he was about to use his ability to rescue them, and at this moment, a blue light appeared abruptly among the shattered rocks. The men who fell in the air were caught one by one by a bird braving blue flames, and then flung to the shore. Breaking the blue flames, Marco, the Phoenix. It is not only the Golden Lion Shiki accident, but the others like Doflamingo and Jinbei are very accidental. Shashing scratched his head even more and looked at Marco, the Phoenix braving strange flames. Why is it so lively all of a sudden? The fellow Phoenix, Marco, has never left Whitebeard's side. If you say that, the Whitebeard Pirates have also come. Sure enough, Shashing just thought that the Whitebeard Pirates might also be here. With a bang, there was a gurgling bubble on the sea not far away, and then a large group of pirates coated with a film slammed out of the sea. As the film disappeared, everyone was unexpectedly dull. Advertisement. This is from the Whitebeard Pirates, the Moby DK. Marco, who rescued Indigo and others from the sky, made a turn and landed on the deck of the ship. After that, the captains of various teams appeared on the ship, Diamond Joe's with a broken arm, and Foil Vista. Waiting for someone, in the end, Whitebeard twisted Gat with a smile on his face. Goo la la la, you are really lively here, White Lion. Whitebeard twisting Gate did not hold Kong Yunchi in his hand, but smiled on his face. The captains of the various teams behind him are also relaxed and casual, and there is no fighting state at all. Obviously, they weren't here to cause trouble, which also made Doflamingo and the others and the pirates who were watching around heave a sigh of relief. And Jinbei was so happy that he couldn't help but ran over and shouted, "Daddy, everyone." When Shashing heard Whitebeard's words, she couldn't help but flipped Byakugan at him. "Hey, Shiki, are all the plans you prepared for so long gone?" Whitebeard Twisted Gate also didn't care about Shashing's attitude, but looked at the golden Lion Shiki floating in the air with an unexpected color on his face. "Why are you here?" Golden Lion Shiki didn't have any trouble seeing many cadres, and then slowly fell down. Whitebeard's mobile was also approaching the port at this time. "You want to cooperate with the White Lion? Why, I also want to cooperate with him, can't you?" Whitebeard Twisted Gate and looked at Shiki with a playful smile. This guy hasn't seen him in decades, and he still looks like this. How can he talk about cooperation with the young and energetic White Lion with this attitude? But this sentence of Whitebeard's twisting of Gates surprised everyone on the island, and they were all shocked. Who is Whitebeard Twist Gate? The captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, the uncrowned king of New World. Don't look at Marineford's lack of performance, but at that time, it was possible to fight against the existence of the entire Marine with a group of forces. Edward, Twet has the power to destroy the world. Zephyr was surprised to watch everything happen from a distance. This is the first time that a character like Whitebeard Twist Gate will actively find someone to cooperate with. Whitebeard, even you, a proud fellow, are so optimistic about the White Lion. Advertisement. Zephyr's eyes closed, unexpectedly, but at the same time he more firmly believed in his choice of cooperating with the White Lion. At this time, a subordinate ran in with a piece of information in his hand. "Marshal Z, there is news from the inside. Punk Hazard duel and meeting are over." The subordinate saluted. "Who are here?" Zephyr took a deep breath and asked directly. When his subordinates subsequently arrived on the list, they also began to report seriously. Xing 640 Pheasant resigned from Marine, and at the same time, the meeting ended. 1 month later, he officially joined forces to defeat the White Lion. This is the list of the Marine Alliance. Zephyr's expression immediately became solemn, and then he picked up the list he had just received. The pupils who looked at the list couldn't help but shrank, and there was a tremor on his face. "Marshal, do we want to avoid the edge for a while?" The subordinates who have seen this list are already shocked. Seeing that Zephyr is also like this at this time, he can't help but ask. "No, I believe in the White Lion side." Zephyr shook his head seriously at this time and looked at Shashing and Whitebeard. The other side. Whitebeard greeted Golden Lion Shiki, and after saying what he wanted to cooperate with Shashing, he walked off the boat with Marco and others smiling. "It's the first official meeting between you and me, how about it, cooperation to include me in the Whitebeard pirate group?" Twisting Gate said directly to Shashing as if he had been with an old friend for many years. Shashing did not give Byakugan at this time, but leaned lazily on a reef. "Look here, it's messy enough, you don't want to make it so troublesome." Shashing shook her head helplessly. Shichibukai's cooperation has already been disturbed every now and then. Plus, the troublesome ghosts of the Whitebeard pirate group are so annoying. Chapter 102. Surprise, from Whitebeard. Advertisement. Gum la 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 la, if you are afraid of trouble, my pirate group can also directly move people over like them, and there are as many treasures as they should be turned over. By the way, I also brought you a surprise. Whitebeard was not in a hurry, but slowly said with a unique smile. Surprise. Shashing was a bit disapproving. What surprises the old fellow Whitebeard Newgate could bring to herself, and deliberately prepared. Whitebeard Newgate, Marco and others are all smiling. Coming to Shashing to seek cooperation was naturally doing his homework, and immediately Marco turned his head and shouted Ace. Ace, who had not gotten off the ship, jumped off the Moby DK with a big box and smiled. Put the box on the ground and opened the box casually. Daddy did not prepare anything particularly expensive, just some game cassettes collected at sea in recent years. Ace's words are not finished yet. Shashing was shocked by the whole person, and only the various game cassettes in the half-person tall box were left in the line of sight. Even Shashing, who is too lazy, can't hold back at this moment. In an instant, Shazing's figure appeared in front of the box. As the speed of teleportation directly scared Ace. In the original place, the afterimage of Shashing began to slowly dissipate. This hand directly caused everyone's eyes to shrink. Neither Whitebeard Newgate nor Golden Lion Shiki expected that the White Lion Shashing, which only uses Conqueror's Haki in the rumors, has such a terrifying speed. The original Shichibukai and others, including Hawkeye Mahawk, did not expect that Shashing, which has never been directly hands-on, has such a terrifying movement speed. You know, Shashing never does it directly. The tip of the iceberg revealed now is enough to shock everyone by surprise. Advertisement. It's easy to talk about cooperation, isn't it just joining the island? I agree, haha. Looking at the various out-of-print game cassettes in the box, Shashing said directly with excitement. I really didn't expect that the old man, Whitebeard Newgate, would be so willing and sincere, and Shazing's depressed mood was instantly cleared, and he agreed. Hearing Shazing's agreement, Marco and the captains of these squads all smiled, and they were still very appetite. If they were like Golden Lion Shiki, they might have played a game first. Hey, White Lion, I can give you these too, under the same conditions. Golden Lion Shiki was a little anxious. Seeing that Whitebeard Newgate succeeded so easily, he hurriedly said to Shashing. No problem, you can get some of these things to the best, the more the better. But there are some rules that everyone still has to follow. That is, don't deliberately cause trouble and come back for help. Otherwise, even if it is you, Whitebeard, I will not expel it directly. Similarly, even Golden Lion and Whitebeard, Shashing shrugged and warned. But these were nothing for Whitebeard, Newgate and others, and they readily agreed. The old guy, Golden Lion, naturally understands that he doesn't think there is anything to deal with a young guy like Shashing, as long as the first step is to open the mouth, then it is much easier to pull down. Jinbei, Doflamingo and others were secretly startled by hearing them. That's Whitebeard and Golden Lion Shiki. And Whitebeard didn't mind these. There was no Whitebeard pirate group and didn't take the initiative to provoke anyone, just seeking freedom at sea. At this time, hearing that Shashing had agreed, she couldn't help but laugh loudly. Little ones, bring up all the wine, and hold a banquet first. Whitebeard twisted Gat and waved his hand directly, laughing and making people prepare for the party. Isn't this time to hold a banquet party to get a good relationship with allies? Marco, let the people from my hometown know that all the people have moved here. From now on, this is the core stronghold, and the others are sub-bases. Immediately, Whitebeard twisted Gate and whispered to Marco. Father, is this appropriate? There is even a war going on here. After listening to Marco, he hesitated. Most of the core places were ordinary people. Advertisement. So many people have been stationed here, including Shichibukai and Golden Lion Shiki. Wouldn't it be a good idea to relocate people from their hometown? Then move here quickly, and it will almost arrive in a few days. Safety is still the top priority now. In our situation, no matter how remote we are, we may be targeted. With the White Lion, we can rest assured. Whitebeard took a deep look at Twistgetter, but Shashing looked at the game cards one by one, and said very seriously. With the earth-shaking changes and the addition of the legendary pirates, the White Lion Shashing is even more terrifying and powerful, and it will spread throughout the world again in a few days. It was not until the banquet was over that Golden Lion Shiki began to dislike the island being too small. After obtaining Xia Xing's consent, he cooperated with the large pirate groups to launch their own capabilities and began to expand the island. And here is also regarded as the core base camp of the White Lion Alliance and other member groups, and it was renamed as the White Lion Island. Marco's thoughts turned. He also understood the old man's intentions, nodded and took his command. Thank you for reading this story at hotmtnovel.com. Your support enables us to keep the site running. People everywhere feel that the three major forces of the Grand Line exist, and now are the two major forces fighting against each other. As Shashing accepted this gift, she became excited, but didn't start to play the game directly. Akainu Sakazuki and Aokiji Kuzan fought in Punk Hazard for 10 days and 10 nights to compete for the position of the new Marine Marshal. The final result was that Akainu Sakazuki won. The position of the new Marshal was established. Roar. At the same time, Marine also reported the latest moves. King. There is the Golden Lion Shiki, the Lion Fruit ability to control huge land without pressure, and the cadre of the Don Quixote family Pika and others cooperate. A group of pirates saw that the matter was over, and that there were two super legendary pirates joining. They were even more excited and fanatical, and the White Lion Alliance was even stronger. Shashing also ate and drank a lot in this party, and the whole island was in a happy celebration. Understood, father. Instead, they led everyone directly to the central island for a blooming banquet party. The world is boiling again. This island has been expanded several times in size, and it has become a large island. Shashing has no opinion on this. After all, you don't have to trouble yourself, and with the addition of Whitebeard and others, it is true that this small island can't hold so many people. It is a good thing to be able to expand.